Down Under Sigmar. You are here with the coach. G'day, how are we all? We have a very important, special, a topic that has been on the back burner for a long time, and my good friend Liam has really stressed the importance of this particular topic at this particular time. So we thought, what a great opportunity to chat about mental health in the hobby. As always, my Down Under Sigmar co-host, except for one episode, it is Liam the villain, aka Shadowhammer. How are you, Liam?
I am exhausted because you somehow got me out of bed this early, which is like, I think no one has done this in about months. I've never been up this early for like months. So this is like weird for me. I see like the sun rising. It's weird.
So for anyone who's catching up on this on a later video on demand stream or on the podcast, I just let you know that Liam has joined us today at 9 o'clock in the morning. So on a Saturday, Liam, it took, I had to call his mom. I had to let his cat know. I had to harass him. And I actually went over to his house to set on the alarms just so he would wake up in preparation for 9 o'clock in the morning. So on behalf of the community, thank you for waking up at 9 in the morning.
That's all good. Yeah, it's really good for me. How are you, man?
I'm good. My wife had a Christmas party last night, so I stayed up really late, got chatting with some people in the community, but I was up okay. I'm really well. But we have a special guest. Very excited to have him debuting on the channel. He is a man from my heart, over, I guess, a brother from another mother, over from America. He is a pro wrestling nut. He is the king of Rantcast. I just got fancy for a second. I'm like, oh, I've been watching too much of the UK election. It is Mr Mephisto. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm rocking it, man. How about yourself?
Yeah, really good. I can't believe I just got really fancy on that word.
I think it's you talked about like moving the schedule and the esteem and the topic. Like you caught in the moment. You let the prestige take over you.
Well, I was watching the elections because one of my one of my dear friends was running in one of the seats, so he was the candidates for the Greens. So I was watching Twitch nonstop for about 8 hours, waiting to see how his seat went. And it must be that posh British accent starting to come through my Aussie twang.
Twang.
I'll try not to go too like Midwest America on you.
But for the benefits of anyone who may not know who you are very highly active on social media. You have a wonderful Twitch platform. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. If you're not into the whole brevity thing, I'm the magical Mr Mephisto. If you prefer to be succinct with it, Mephisto or just Andrew.
But not Andy. I found out yesterday.
Absolutely not Andy. Please, I take it as you can call me you can make up a random nickname for me. And I would find that more favorable to Andy. It's a primal hatred. I have no I probably shouldn't be letting my my Achilles heel out into the world, but now it's known. Yeah. So I do a little weekly show, sometimes twice weekly, called Rantcast over on Twitch. I then export that after I tape the live show. I export that to YouTube, and then it gets a pure audio form on all your favorite podcast platforms like iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, Castbox, stuff like that. I like to think it's a show that's Age of Sigmar adjacent. Like, my favorite parts of gaming are the like sort of Venn diagram spheres of how gaming intersects with the rest of our life. Our relationships with people, how that defines that stuff. So that's the stuff I tend to explore a little bit on Age of Sigmar. Folks like you do a hell of a job deep diving on Battletome, so I don't need to be smart about it. I can just bullshit my way through a show, and that's what I do.
Don't let the truth ruin a good story, in my opinion. You just gotta look at the camera, be very confident, and you wait for the chat to absolutely smash you with all the rules you got wrong.
Right. Well, I mean, with Rantcast, because it is live, very similar to how you're doing live here on YouTube. The Twitch interactions are why I'm on Twitch. It's the memeing, the emojis, like having your own custom art and stuff, like things like that. I think put a little bit more personality into it. It helps shape Rantcast into being that show that's very much interactive with the chat. The chat's part of it. They've all started taking to calling themselves Chat Gang. They've got their own emote and everything. And yeah, they pick me up when I fall down. Last night, I was stumbling through a historical battle. I couldn't remember what it was called, and they're like, "Oh, it's I don't know, Privy Hill or something like that." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's what it was called. I just remembered the story." So they make me look more intelligent too, like any good community, right? Like you just they bring you up, and I think that's a big part of the show.
The thing that I always say in business when I'm working with coaching colleagues is surround yourself, be the idiot in the room, surround yourself with smart people, and that's where you elevate yourself. You never want to be the smartest person in the room. So yeah, I don't know what that was a bit of a weird segue, but I know the chat is giving you absolute hell. You could be known as Ando Rooney, Ando Star, Drewy, Nagash's personal magic girl. So many cool stuff.
I like that. I like Nagash's personal magic girl, really. Like that one's pretty spicy.
But I'm pretty sure that role's already been filled by Arcan. So you can just call you Arcan. You can just call you Arcan.
Just call me Arcan. Well, what was my rap nickname for a little bit there when I thought I was going to be a rapper? This is a total lie, by the way. It's not. Was A Train. So like that was very short lived. I don't know if you mentioned the pro wrestling thing. I don't know if you mentioned that that I actually was an independent wrestler for a couple years. Wrestled in mostly the Midwest, a lot of Western Wisconsin, Eastern Minnesota, around that circuit. So AEW or not AEW. I'm sorry. AEW. Yeah, I was on AEW like 10 years before it was even a thing. No, it was NAW, New Age Wrestling, Bull Power Wrestling, a bunch of like local stuff. And I love a persona. Like I love, like we've got the villain here with us. Like I that's why I'm so active on Twitter, is it's just like heels have more fun, and you got to be a heel. So inventing personas for myself is just par for the course.
Liam, do you know the difference? Do you know what a face and a heel is?
Nah.
Cool.
Are you gonna give me another business speech about this?
This is a wrestling one. Basically, a heel is the bad guy and the face is a good guy. So this is where you got to lean into that villain persona. Now, it doesn't mean like you do really bad stuff, but you really lean in and like when a heel goes into the crowd, there's lots of booing, like boo, boo, Liam, you suck. And
I get that all the time,
and you just go in there and you trigger people and you get that reaction. So I think that's the villain persona that we're all waiting for, and it's the egg that's going to eventually hatch. But
well, thanks to you guys on Twitter who keep tagging me on the same post about a guy who made like every club needs a villain. I was like, I'm pretty sure I got tagged like 4 or 5 times. I was like, okay, I clearly need to buy this top.
Right.
Like you guys are clearly want me to buy this top, which I'm not gonna lie, I will be buying next week. But
awesome.
But yeah.
Well, so Liam and Mr Mephisto are here today to talk about mental health in the hobby. Before we get into that, we're going to do our traditional around the grounds and find a little bit about what's going on in our world. So Mephisto might ask you what's going on your gaming table. Been painting much? You've been playing much? What's going on recently?
Yeah, I haven't played a lot of Age of Sigmar since my bro Haywo and I beat Tom and Vince at Holy Havoc, and I'm just going to keep talking about that. I'm fairly certain Warhammer Weekly is a subsidiary of Rantcast now because we owned them. But since Holy Havoc, I haven't really played a whole lot. Just kind of getting ready for the season, which really does tie into like some of the mental health stuff we're going to talk about. This is a particular time of the year when some stuff happens, and I'll talk about it a little bit more, but I kind of have to like prep myself. I got to get all the distractions out the way. So cleaning up my office space, just giving myself a clean slate. So I've been doing a lot of that and a lot of hobby, getting my Ossiarch Bone Reapers ready for Wapaka, which is probably the most Wisconsin tournament. I know that maybe doesn't mean anything to and to people living in the Upside Down or around the world, but like it's very much the you do beer hoistings as tiebreakers and stuff. It's the most Wisconsin tournament we have. You drive.
Wait. Sorry, what?
Yeah. So if you have like a tiebreaker, like on the last day, like for best death or something like that, you'll do a beer hoisting with somebody. Once they go down the tiebreakers. So
what's a beer hoisting? Is that
beer hoisting is just like you hold out your mug, your stein, for as long as possible, the person to like drop their
but it has to be like full, so it's like kind of like
yeah,
it's like you see it in baseball where like when people want to check out their bat, they try and see how long they can hold it up in the air.
Yes.
And if it like drops a little bit, then the bat's too heavy. So it's kind of similar to that.
Yeah. You hoist your stein, and then it's etiquette for you when you drop your stein to slam it. Not to be confused with boat racing, which is of course like I slam my beer, the next person next to me slams their beer and goes around. That would be a really cool tiebreaker for a team event, I think.
I've never seen either of those. Here I was thinking like World's Strongest Men were doing the keg toss, but it's very different to what I thought.
Yeah. So I'm getting ready for that. I'm going to be running my bone daddies. So I've been doing a lot of hobby, and I will be laid off seasonally speaking. We get a ton of snow. I work not in construction. I'm more on the like engineering planning side of construction. So I go out there, I survey all the land, and I do a bunch of like that stuff. Well, when winter rolls around and there's a ton of snow, there's not a whole lot of construction to be done. So usually I take a seasonal layoff around January, February. I take it in January. It's going to give me a lot of time to focus on the Bone Daddies, and then Haywo and I are going to just grind out some games over a few weeks there, getting ready for PACA.
Sick.
Yeah.
Liam, what's going on in your world? That sounds pretty amazing, by the way.
Yeah, it's like a little vacation. It's going to be pretty sweet, I think.
I'm literally going to be writing down a note for like my next event that I run, beer hoisting as a tiebreaker. Like no secondary objectives, just see how this goes. It sounds like something that Australia would totally be down for.
I was thinking the boat race sounds something that's down our way.
Oh,
yeah.
I would totally do that for like a doubles event. Like you like just be like, okay guys, do it this way. What's happening in my world? Well, I've been painting heaps with again the Bone Daddies. Getting ready for CanCon. Which is, yeah, you're shaking my head being like, you're not going to get it done.
No, I'm shaking my head that both of my guests are working on the Bone Daddies. And I bet you're both doing Petrifix.
Yeah.
I'm doing a fluffy Petrifex if it makes you feel any better for PACA.
Come on, 72% of the... So I did a video the other week around the emerging meta based on AOS reminders, and 72% of the list generated were the Petrifix Elite. Mm-hmm. So don't not be the 72%. You are my average.
May I interrupt real quick, Liam, here with some hot take? I think as the meta progresses and people play with Ossiarch Bone Reapers and remember mortal wounds are good against low model count armies again, you're going to realize the downsides of the army. You're going to see a little bit more Staliarch Lords, and you're going to see a little bit more Mortis Praetorians.
In the whole Ossiarch Bone Reaper video that we did like a couple of weeks ago, I did say Staliarch Lords is by far the next best thing.
Oh man, it's the washing machine, man. You put people in a spin cycle, it's gonna be great. Yeah.
Somebody did comment on my video. They're like, why wasn't the was it Staliarch Lords? Why weren't they as nearly as represented? And I think they were calling out what was the second most popular faction? I can't remember what it was. It wasn't the magic one.
Praetorians, the exploding ones.
I can't remember, but either way, they were like they kind of shadowed what you just said, that they thought there was definitely better builds, or they were surprised that wasn't closer to the top.
People gravitate towards the obvious thing early, and
it's the Hagnar thing.
Yeah, and absolutely continue. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we'll just call it the Hagnar effect. It's the Hagnar effect. Once you see something that's like way too obvious, everyone just goes to it. But after CanCon, I'll be looking at Staliarch Lords and the magic heavy one, where it's like just shutting down magic. Due to I'll be needing to practice games due to I made it to the ETC team, which so that's it's going to be an interesting time. Yeah, I'm still surprised, to be honest, that I was selected, but I'll take it. But yeah, so I got that. So that's happening in my world, and I've been practicing games with Chris Welfare from Mortally Wounded heaps. We literally just had a practice game last night, and we got home at like midnight or 1. So yeah, at the new Exiles Gaming Club. So anyone who's from Sydney, you may know Exiles in St. Peter's has just been moved to Marrickville, and a new venue is like mint, like super awesome. Mint. So yeah, it's really good. So that's been happening with me, man. What about you?
Painting mostly. I played a game last week with a player who's returning back to AOS after about a 12-month stint. So I took him through the ropes, introduced him to the new scenery table, introduced him to his new war scrolls. Being a death player, I had to kind of walk him through, like we had Arcane the Black as well. So that war scroll changed from his battle tome, and it was a really good game. Probably the list wasn't as optimized for the current meta that it was probably 12, 18 months ago. But it was a really good game. I was practicing my CanCon list. I kind of kept it on a bit of easy mode, but it was really good. Otherwise, just painting, man, just really painting. I bought up a new Hurricanum. I bought some demigryphs, so I'm going to have the Hurricanum being pulled by demigryphs as opposed to horses. And I'm looking some other little ways to kind of make it my own. And then I just put some primer on my anointed Free Guild anointed warrior. So that'll be good. He'll lead my Free Guild Phoenix Guard.
Hell yeah.
Speaking of the obvious thing, Phoenix Guard being, the
human.
Thing, you made them human. You made them human.
100%. They are, my army is Free Guild. I am an Empire player from back in the day, and everything that is not human, will be human. So my Frost Phoenix will eventually be human. I'll have the Ice Queen of Kislev on top. My Shadow Warriors are humanized. No dirty elves for me.
I think that really is one of the major strengths of cities is you put a lot of yourself on that army, a lot of your personality. It's just ready to go. Obviously most armies you try to put your own spin on, but it's just that whole army is just saying, hey, customize me.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at everyone is I've seen really cool bestial kind of like based armies, the likes of Tristan Gray is doing some amazing work with his types of models. Like everyone, the Cities of Sigmar book rewards hobby. It is a hobbyist dream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a pretty cool book to have, with the flexibility, which is cool.
Right.
Yeah. And I was actually chatting to someone the other day who's done the complete opposite. They've elvenized free people stuff. So they're using the old high elf great swords as what are they called? They're basically great swords without being great swords, but they got the elven version.
Like the sword masters?
That's the one, yeah. So they got sword masters instead of great swords, and they're elvenizing the Free Guild. So I think the book rewards that, and I think most tournament organizers are more than happy for you to kit bash and just have an absolute ball and put your love into the hobby.
Yeah, it's good. News-wise, as well to mention, Slaves of Darkness comes out today.
Yes, today is Saturday, and either of you picking up Slaves of Darkness book?
I will pick up the book because Rantcast is... I don't typically do Battletome reviews, but I think there's, apart from my personal bias armies, there's like a couple books that I think are just super important to the game. One of them being Cities of Sigmar. I think Slaves of Darkness is on that same tier, and then I think Seraphon actually is secretly on that exact same tier. So I think those are the ones that really, really merit some discussion. So I'll be picking that up. Also, Allies for my Beasts of Chaos. Sorry.
No, there's no problem with that. I was just like letting you do it, but I agree. Like it's one of those books that you need to kind of get because it is a book to learn. Because everyone has a undivided chaos army or models wise, and we're going to see a lot of people like probably running Nurgle again within slaves, or like use the Nurgle keyword and put them in Magican and stuff. And we're going to see that heaps of like also Sinesh and stuff. So it is very much a book that we need to like you probably need to get your head around because there's going to be so many like hidden tech stuff in that book. Also, Archaon is definitely going to be coming back for people who just want to bring back the pretty much god of the end of the world times.
Do you think it's going to shake up the meta? Do we think we're going to see a whole bunch of Slaves to Darkness based armies on the table? Or is it, like more of a finesse book, like, no offense, the Beast of Chaos?
Was that me?
It's an open question for either.
Okay.
Go.
Me? Okay. I think in a volume of models sense, it can't help but be meta shaping. I don't think it's gonna be meta shaping in the way that like you have to deal with this army, like you have to have an answer. Dodge it or beat it, like the type of thing that like say Slanesh or Skaven was. Well, like, can I beat this or do I need to dodge it? I don't think it's going to be in that same category. I do think there's some really awesome tech in there that you just need to be aware. Otherwise, a cagey opponent's going to take you to task. But it's just such a big book. for instance, like someone who gets their Slanesh army, if this big winter FAQ doesn't have some finesse to it, changing like in the adjustments, I'll say, to Slanesh coming for that we hope to get, they're just going to shift that army over into Slaves of Darkness. You know, like you're going to see that happen with people's armies, just kind of become modular and then shift over into Slaves of Darkness, and so it's just going to be meta shaping just by volume. The way that Stormcast Eternals, even if they're not tier 1, you just need to know how to beat them, because you're going to see a lot of them.
Yeah. Liam?
There's just secret tech in there. Like I've watched Man Reed's book video, and I was just like listening and stuff, and I was just like, there's some secret serious tech here, that you're gonna definitely see like the top tier players probably like use and abuse kind of thing, but it's gonna be one of those armies where it's gonna be mid tables, but give it to a player who understands the gist and stuff with the secret tech and get people at like gotcha moments in a way will be on top tables. And also some of the new models that they've released for it are epic. Like that new Chaos Lord is awesome.
Yeah.
Like like I can't fault it. Like I'm literally looking at it right now, being like, I might just buy a start collecting box just to do that.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, if should Zench get another book, for example, as well, we're going to start to see not only Nurgle builds, but what does Slaves of Darkness look like under a refreshed Zench book? Should that happen? Obviously, we've got Slanesh that's really strong right now. So how do those two combine? And no one's really talking about Khorne. So
there's talk about Khorne.
Is there? I haven't seen much
Khorne.
people talking about Khorne. I think it seems like everyone's talking about Nurgle. That's the big one that everyone's talking about.
Well, that's the most obvious one that's going to get FAQ'd in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
The one I really like is actually the Tzeentch one. Moving endless spells out of phase is awesome. Like you can do so much with that by just like popping a dude and like now you move. The vast majority of wording on endless spells is like when it completes a move. So you pop a guy in your hero phase, and then just like it doesn't even need to move far. It just moves again and ends its movement within 1 inch of something to proc a purple sun again. To proc a like
Pendulum.
Pendulum. Yeah, it's just there's so much, like you said, Liam, there's so much tech in that book that just like from a list science sort of like theory crafter's brain that I sort of have, like I look at it and I go, yes. It does have some obvious things. I think like that people latched onto early was the Dark Prophecy, which it's got logistical issues, but like honestly, you're swinging it's like a 42% chance if you have just went to double turn. All Dark Prophecy is really doing is swinging that back to a 50%. When you look at just like a raw numbers, it's worth if a command point says have plus 8% to win a double turn if you just win. That's what it does in the game. Yeah, there's logistical things like, do we flip coins? Do you trust me to not lie about my die and use my close-up magic tricks to shift the number around and cheat you? Whatever. But when it gets right down to it, like, I think the ability's cool, but it's not really going to be stealing games. Not any more than Priority already does. Good players are going to play assuming you're going to win Priority against them. And
with that, because like you're only really using that ability because you're hoping to get that priority,
right? Yeah,
and I think so. You kind of play it being like you really wanted that priority, so I'm going to play it this way.
So for the benefit of anyone who doesn't know what this is, what it is you spend a command point, you roll a dice on a 1, 2, or 3. You go first, and your opponent you go first, and then 4, 5, 6 is your opponent goes first. One of those two orders, but essentially it's a secret dice roll, so only you, the chaos player, knows who's taking the priority. So I guess it's foresight into what's coming up. And I think some of the challenges that people have been talking about online is how do you create that trust? How do I roll the dice and know that what you've rolled is the actual priority roll as opposed to just choosing something that you really want? So I'm sure we're going to work that out as a community. Yeah. But I think it's a fantastic roll. I don't want to see it dropped at all. Whether you call over a TO, and I'm sure there's someone smarter than me is going to work out a mechanism that's going to be great for everyone.
Yeah, we were talking coin flips, like just flipping a coin and putting because a coin doesn't run the risk of getting bumped as much, like so a coin and then putting it under a cup or under your cheat sheet, your AOS reminder sheet or something, right? Like,
yeah, I just say dice cup, put it in the middle of the table, and that's it, like where everyone can see. And also it's a great thing called Don't Be a Dickhead. But yeah. But yeah, so it looks really cool. I really like that book. I think it's epic. I can't wait to see what people do with it. I've already been getting sent lists by like our mate Elfbro and stuff, which is really cool because he's OG Slaves of Darkness. So yeah, one model to give a shout out though is the new Warcry cat. Like her rules are awesome, like really cool.
The War Llama.
It's a cat. No, yeah, the War Llama.
It's a llama. The llama's boss.
The War Llama. I think it's really cool because it's the skink. I think it's the skink Starseer, which was probably the most fun game mechanic, like one of the most fun game mechanics, where like you and your opponent get to interact by like trying to match dice or trying to like get the same dice, and it's kind of that same thing, but it's kind of like stares at you, being like, "I'm playing a mind game with you, and if you fuck this up, you fight last." And I think those kind of mechanics are just really cool, and like it's kind of because this is the thing that I always found was really cool when AOS went to unbinding 30 inches, is because in your opponent's hero phase, you still get to interact with them.
Yes.
Because I remember there was a stage in AOS 1 where it was just like when it was your opponent's hero phase, there's nothing you could do. Like you just stood there being like, I can't do anything. I can't do any interactions. Like I have to wait till combat or shooting to do something. So this is one of those things where like you can get your opponent to interact with you as well before combat, which is kind of cool.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we always talk about the social side of this game. You know, if I play Magic the Gathering with you, I put on headphones. I don't even talk to you. I turn cards sideways and then take my win or take my loss, walk away from the table. Playing Age of Sigmar forces you to be social with your opponent. It's part of what makes this game great. And mechanics that reinforce that, I think, are awesome. That's why I love Hand of Dust. You know, I'm gonna hold the die and I'm just gonna talk shit the whole time while I have the die in my hand. Like, am I left-handed? Am I right-handed? Does it even matter? Like, same thing. Like, you're gonna roll that die, you're gonna put it under the cup, you're gonna look at it, you're gonna go, am I gonna take the double turn or not? And you're just gonna like. I think that's fun. I think stuff like that is really fun, and it takes.
I do it with my fanatics all the time. Like I'll mess with people. So my grots have red hats, blue hats, and purple hats. So I've got 3 different units, and I'll always write in the book which colored hats the fanatics are in. And everyone always guesses the big unit, and I never put it in the big unit. But it's always that fun little dance, like which little unit am I putting it in? And they're like, they're being all cagey and janky, but there's that fun little dance that we have. It's a social interaction, and I'm all for that. And it kind of ties in again nicely to what we're talking about here, which is about the hobby, the community, and how important that social element is to this game.
I just seeing these rules are making me happy that like GW are bringing back, and I think this is the one book where it's a new rules writer. They just brought in the 3rd rules writer, and this is his first book. So the fact that I can already see there's some FAQs, I'm like, okay, cool. Like in all fairness, this is his like first like GW like rule writing publication. So like you can probably give it a bit more leeway, but it's not like some of the other books where you kind of just look at it being like, who seriously wrote this? Like, come on, guys. But
this doesn't work at all at like on its surface value. Yeah, it's you see where the headspace is going. You see them pushing the boundary of rules, and most importantly, you see them reinforcing the interactions on the table, which is what good rules do.
Yeah, and just to close out the Slaves of Darkness, I think it's going to be a book that is going to take probably a few months for that list tech to come out. Yes, absolutely. The easy stuff like the Nurgle will start to kind of pop up. Obviously, people who've already got Slaves of Darkness will run what they'll run. But I think much like Cities, much like the Gloomspite Gits, it's going to take a good 4 to 6 months for that nice little secret tech to start popping up. Don't expect to see it kind of overtaking the meta straight away like your Bone Reapers and your Slanesh, but there's some good stuff in there, really good stuff.
Yeah, the people are going to play what they have first, and then they're gonna tech out their lists gradually, just from a very logistical standpoint. They're going to play what they have first, and what you have first isn't necessarily the best. We see this with Cities right now, where like they're kind of like downtrodden, but they're going to bounce up. The people on the Hallow Hearts, the people on like the really tuned Living Cities or Tempest Eye, right? Yeah. So.
Love it. Before we get into the topic of the week, I always want to thank everyone who supports the channel, which is my Patreons. Thank you very much for all of your love and support. If you actually on this list, I've actually sent you guys all out a bunch of Christmas goodies, which includes some coach merch. So got some little gaming accessories to send out. So thank you very much, everybody. And I've got a little hat as well. Oh, don't do that one yet. wrapping up the Australian scene. That was awkward. Actually, I should probably shout out the names for everyone who joins the podcast. So thank you, Kenny. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Reflex Dog. Thank you, Sphinx. Thank you, Chaos Spawn. Thank you, Matt, Dwight. There's so many cool people on there. I really appreciate your support. Wrapping up the Australian scene very much. We have a couple of events coming up. We do have Call to Glory, which is CanCon, 240 players. It is sold out. If you want to join, come on the wait list. It's an amazing event. We've got people coming from Scotland. We've got people coming from America. We've got people coming from probably all walks of life. It's going to be a really cool event. Looking forward to it. We've got Victoria's got the Summer Smash. We've got SAGT, which Doom and Darkness, I think, sold out within an hour and a half, maybe less than that. It was 50 spots. That's going to be a good one. And Dwellers Below are running a pretty awesome narrative event coming up. They sold out majority of their tickets very early on. There might be a couple still left. Jump on that. Very, very cool. 1,500 points. Plus you build a Titan of War. So you get to create a monster or some type of mechanism that you will be using for your story.
I think it can be either like a monster or a hero character that you've always wanted to kit bash or paint up. And then there's also like, you could also probably do like a cool terrain piece that, like, you know how like every army now is getting like a terrain piece, but like you can rock up with an army that, let's say like Cities of Sigmar don't have a terrain piece really. So you can build like a Titan of War and like write a cool terrain war scroll that buffs your army and stuff. Or like there could be like this cool endless spell that you want to do where it's like the aura of Sigmar and your Stormcast army can like cast it and it's like Sigmar himself coming in with his hammer. Like you can do cool stuff like that and that can be your Titan of War. So it doesn't exactly have to be a model, but it can be like this cool creation that you've always wanted GW to make.
So definitely check that out. The narrative events worldwide are incredible. You've got the Raws, you've got the Nova, you've got, Warhammer achievements. Check out a narrative event no matter what country you're in. Finally, just a little bit about what's going on in the Aussie content scene. We've got a whole bunch of fresh Aussie content. We've had the Heralds of Warpatter put out a podcast. Dwellers Below put out a podcast. Mortally Wounded put out a podcast. Haven't seen anything new in the last week or two from Notorious, but definitely still check out their Masters hype. The Failed Charge put out an interesting one called Are You Assuming My Legion? Though that wasn't their initial title. They kind of flipped that, cheeky buggers. And then on a YouTube perspective, Doom and Darkness, Measured Gaming, Cinderfall Gaming, Borderline Gaming, which is a new channel. They put out their very first bat rep. And then from a blog point of view, you've got Plastic Crack. Our friend Peter Atkins has put out a cool little blog around wrapping up the year. And then Remax has kind of shared a little bit about his road to CanCon.
Yep.
The Peter Atkins blog, by the way, is really fantastic. No one's like, I don't read a whole lot because reading is for suckers. But
his stuff is really good.
It has like a really cool spin. I love his shameless homerism for orcs. Like it's like how I am with death. I see that with orcs, and I appreciate I respect game recognizes game, right? And he's got a lot of games, so I really like that.
He's also one of the people who got elected for ETC as well.
So who was the Australian ETC team? So that got announced literally the other day.
It got announced on Sunday. So it is Matt Tyrrell, the new master of Australia. And then we got Andrew Bigwood, King of Narrative, alongside Cinderfall Gaming. He's also King of Narrative before I get a message from him saying like, no, wait, what about me? So Bigwood, who is, you would probably see on Cinderfall Gaming's YouTube channel. He's part of it. So that's two. And then we got Michael Clark from Victoria, Peter Atkinson, myself, and I am missing. Oh, and of course, Charles Black.
Yes.
Charles Black is also part of it as well. So yeah, and we don't have a coach coming with us to the trip yet, but so someone wants to feel like they can be a coach or aka water boy with us, let us know. Applications are open. You just hit us up and we'll work things out. But we also got Nick from Dwellers and a few others who are coaching with us on our training days. So there's a few people who have been putting their hands up, saying like, we'll come on your training days, we'll help you guys out. A lot of the ex-ETC guys are coming to help us out with the pairing system, being like how this works. So the team building is actually already started really. Within 24 hours, we've already worked out like how this team's going to function mechanically. So, and we're all on the same view of like, we're going there to have a great time. We'll do our best. We're not expecting to win, but like, we are definitely going to be like going, like, we're going to like put our footprint being like, we're going to do well for our country. So yeah, really excited.
You're going to swag all over people, basically.
I'm just going to sass them and just be friendly at the same time.
Is it customary to have a water boy at ETC? I've only recently started following the ETC coverage. That happens at a weird time.
So generally most teams do bring a coach, like a non-playing coach. It has to be like the coach can't play, like it's not playing. And so generally sometimes when you're waiting around, you generally have to get drinks for your team to make sure that they're hydrated in many ways possible. So I think it is pretty much like you have to get one. So that's why I'm like, if anyone wants to come along.
But you're coming for the team bonding as opposed to being your personal lackey.
Well, also, yeah, we're going to Warhammer World beforehand, so that might be a selling point. So if anyone wants to tag along, but yeah, like I'm super excited for the trip.
Yeah, I'm seeing a whole bunch of teams being announced at the moment, and I think I've seen Scotland, England. I think America announced that. There's some pretty strong teams and some very reputable people across the board. So it will be an amazing weekend to meet some of the world's best Sigmar players from across all of the regions. And it's really the first time properly. Well, I mean, like we had it last year and, well, this year, but next year, you know, we got more nations coming. So very excited.
Yeah, it's definitely built up its reputation now for most countries now want to have a team there. I know that we were still like on the fence, but then the fact that we finally got one is super exciting. So yeah, and I love team events. Team events are awesome. Like
it's a great format. It's just like one of those. It's a very like gamer format plus the showmanship, the camaraderie. It's just got all the stuff. Like it's just got all the stuff that you like you love AOS for.
And when we say team events, it's not like 2-on-2. It's a team of 5 or 6. Is it 5, 6?
It's 6.
Team of 6. But it's a one-on-one process. But you go through a series of matchups. So as a team, Australia works out which armies they want to play against, and the English then choose who they want to play against, and then there's this nice little matchup process that you might get one battle that you really want to pair up with, but then they get something. So there's much defending as much as attacking and trying to score as many points or denying as many points through the process of the tournament. So it's a fascinating concept.
Yeah, right. You can have a list that just its entire job is to just be an anchor list and not give up points. They play for the minor every game, and you match that into some beatdown list you're afraid of, and then you've got your list that's the beatdown that's just supposed to get the major. And there's a really cool sort of like list drafting. It's just a really cool format.
If anyone who's listening and are interested more about it, AOS Shorts has a couple of interviews with some of the ETC team members about it, like Jack Armstrong and stuff. So you can go to AOS Shorts. And then also Facehammer has a really good podcast about their experience with ETC last year, which I've listened to now a couple of times, and it's a really good podcast. Like it's really good and it's very good. So if you guys want to know more, because this show's not about ETC, but if you want to learn more about it, those are the two places that I would recommend to go to if you want to learn more about it. So yeah.
Maybe we will do an ETC show as we get closer, and we'll chat to the Australian team. What do you reckon about that?
I thought we were already going to do that. I thought that was like pretty much like a given since when we announced the team.
All right. Well, assuming you're still on the channel next year, because the survey feedback is in, so maybe we'll have one. Do you want to now get into the topic of the week, which is obviously about mental health and hobby?
That'd be amazing. Yes, let's do that.
All right, let's get into it now. I want to put some context around this first. Now, the context I want to put around this is that I and the people who are on here today, we are not medical professions. We are not therapists. We are not trained professionals. Yeah, psychologists is where I wanted to go with that. Thank you. We are not specialists in this field. So what we're going to share with you is practical and realistic feedback that has been uncovered through our own experiences. However, if you find yourself in a position where you need help, where you are not okay, please refer to your points of contact in your country. Now, my listener audience comes from around the world, so I can't deep dive into every single country and every single point of contact, but the top 4 that I found, certainly from an Australian point of view, so you've got the Kids Helpline, Beyond Blue, and Lifeline is just 3 of the many examples that you can reach out and just say, look, I'm not okay, I need some help. From the UK point of view, you've got the Samaritans, Shout, is it Papyrus? Yep, those guys are wonderful. And many of these services as well have an online chat facility as well. So you don't even have to call up. You don't have to, if you don't want to speak to someone, but you want to chat to someone, that those facilities are there as well. From a Canada point of view, Kids Help, the Kids Help phone, the crisis service in Canada, the crisis text line, are all wonderful services. And then in America, you've got the crisis text line, the Samaritans USA, and I'm Alive crisis chat line. There are points of contact in every country, and please see a professional if you really need help. I can't stress that enough. Anything that you two want to add in that kind of I just want to put that context down because I'm not a trained professional.
No, I think you nailed it. I draw a lot from personal anecdote. So I mean, most of everything I say is anecdotal, just from my own experience.
For any of our younger viewers there, pretty much if there is a kids helpline in your area, use it. When I was growing up as a teenager and stuff, or whatever, they were always a really cool service. They were super chill. They understand your mindset and stuff. I haven't really dealt much with the more adult ones because I've gone to my my general doctor to go get a referral to someone and everything. So for kids and stuff who are being a young kid or a teenager growing up, you don't really want to talk to your parents about it sometimes, and you just want to talk to someone about it. Those kid helplines are literally designed for that reason, because we know that it's not easy to open up. I know for a fact, and some of us here and other people know, it's not that easy to open up at first. And once you do a kids helpline kind of thing, you feel way more confident talking about it, and that's the best way to start. Because even parents nowadays understand that their kids don't really want to talk about their mental health. It's common now that most people don't want to talk about it. So if you have a helpline and you're a young kid growing up and stuff and you're into Warhammer and you're just not feeling yourself kind of thing, use these helplines. They're really good. For adults, I haven't had an experience, but if they're as good as the kids ones, you're pretty sweet. So but it's good.
So absolutely. Please use them. Most of them, if not all of them, are free. Please do use them. I want to set the scene. I want to set the context. And, for people who haven't gone through the challenges and the struggles of mental health, I'd love to get a bit of a caveat and understanding of what does it mean to have mental illness? What is this stigma and what is this thing all about? We hear about it. It's very, very, I wouldn't say buzzword, but there's a lot of stuff going on about this mental health. What is it? What does it mean? What does it mean to you having a mental illness?
Well, we're having a cultural shift right now. For a long time, people thought, just culturally speaking, that the brain is just separate from the body, right? You've got your mental and then you've got your physical, and they're two different things. And it's you can sprain your ankle. You don't see the tendons that are stressed and strained and that are sprained. You can have minor just hiccups in your brain chemistry. It reflects in your mood. It's not obvious or apparent stuff because you're not limping, but you can be socially limping. You can be having some of those mental health issues. And I think because we don't see the brain and we are so sort of really diving into it now as a culture, I think part of it just comes with making it visible, if that makes sense, because you don't have a sling for your brain if you sprain your brain, you have to be hey man, I'm having a bad day. It can be basic stuff. Like I said, I'm pretty anecdotal. I'll probably share, as this progresses, I'll share some of my past with my mom's bipolar disorder and some really extreme cases of some stuff that really affected me growing up. But it can just be a bad day. Someone yelling at you at work, and how do you, cope? How do you deal? How do you,
when it comes to what mental health is and why, what you mentioned is how there is a stigma around it. like I grew up with people saying or thinking that the stigma, it's like this, there's a stigma there being like, oh, mental health's not real, like you're just grabbing attention or whatever. And that's not true at all. And like it's really, and like in our society, there's still heaps of people who think mental health is not real. Like we even have some like big name politicians in some countries who think it's not a thing, and that's why like they cut funds in like mental health care and stuff. But like mental health generally is just like pretty much what Andrew said in a way. It's kind of like your brain is just got a broken arm kind of thing. It's just like it's not having a great day, your mood swings and stuff, and mental health can affect your physical self as well, like hardcore.
They're connected.
Like they're super connected. Like your brain is like a second heartbeat in a way where it's just like without it you're not functioning. So it definitely affects that. And what does it mean to like have mental health? It's just like, I wouldn't even say it's like, and this is something that I really want to point to say, it's just like, it's not a weakness or anything. It's just part of you. Like I have lived with mine for ages and it's just a part of me, and like I live with it. And I kind of sometimes call it like a best friend that you just argue with like every 2 or 3 weeks. Like that one friend that you just don't like, but like you're there around. So that's what
I want to call out Apollo's chat. Apollo Syndrome has made a really good point. I think he said it's a sign of weakness, but it's also a sign of strength.
It's not a sign of weakness. The B's are accidental.
I thought he was talking about sweet robots, like that. When you download our consciousness.
Oh
damn. Go ahead.
Go.
Yeah, I have like a cycle essentially. Like it. My diagnostic's pretty classic. I'm chronic insomnia. So there's 3 types of insomnia. I am the extreme version. If you've seen Fight Club, it's kind of like that. So I average on when I'm not having a bad fit of insomnia, which depending on stressors and stuff like that, I average 4 hours of sleep a day. That's half of what you need. So I'm always like in a fog. The other aspect of it is I have pretty classic clinical depression, and then I've got recently developed anxiety issues that have begun to accompany my depression. And the depression was just my normal. It's what I grew up with. Like that's just who it was a part of my identity to be the depressed artist, writer, poet guy. The goth kid, like it was part of, like I incorporated it into my identity. How my love of death is probably in some macabre way related to just my mental health growing up. But like, so that was just like part of my thing was just like, okay, Andrew's depressed, ha ha ha. And it got me chicks for a while. There was some good stuff with the depression. Depression isn't all by itself horrible, because depression, when you recognize you're going through some depression, like usually it's short term. Usually depression is short term. You feel it when something is not right. Something is not balanced in your life, and you seek balance. In a healthy brain will seek balance, right?
Yeah.
And so for a long time, I found my balance with my depression. The anxiety has been what was crushing me these last few years. Like, because I would get the depression, I would recognize my depressive cycle. It cycles. Like I'll wake up one day, I'm feeling fucking great every day in a row, and then something happens Tuesday, Wednesday, nothing happens. I just wake up in a funk, and now I'm like, I start listening to certain types of bands that I always listen to when I'm depressed. I get into my old habits. I don't talk to people. I shut down. I go pick a fight on the internet with somebody. Like I get into like again, it's a cycle. And then when that anxiety coupled, it was like this. It was like a paralysis. Like it made everything worse than just usual. So I've got my standard hangups, and they're all very logical how I ended up how I did today, or how I am today. But I hit a breaking point at the beginning of this year. Actually. Some people witnessed it. Coach, you are actually one of them. You saw it, and now I joke you're AOS life coach now, but you saw that happen. Like I mentioned seasonal layoff, I think at the onset of the show. It's just part of my job. They laid me off. They told me I wasn't going to get laid off that season last year. Then they laid me off for 2 months instead of just my customary one. Then, so we didn't budget for it. So now we're in like triage mode, trying to like, what can we pay? What can we push? I'm trying to sell a freaking story because usually I welcome my seasonal layoff because then I focus on writing. Suddenly, I don't sell a story for additional income. I have failed. You know, I did not succeed. And it was a bunch of stuff piled up. And I made it to like February, get quote unquote hired back date because you're with the same company, but the way it works out, it's freaking weird. I end up back with the same company, but then we have this extended prolonged winter that goes through April. So I'm still only working like 20 hours. I'm still partially claiming unemployment. They're mad at me for claiming unemployment now for a 4th or 5th month in a row without finding a new job, quote unquote. I'm like, I'm supposed to be permanently and full-time employed. Yeah. And everything that I've woven myself through toppled down and I got crushed. And I didn't know how to get out of it. And it was bad. It was bad. And it was visible is the thing. Like it was the, you know, like I was losing my temper with people, picking fights on Facebook or writing really, really grim, you know, statuses, just hoping somebody sees anything, you know, and, you know, cause I'm generally sarcastic. I'm generally dry. You know, those things are just kind of part of my persona. Like I said, I grew up with depression. It just, at some point, you know, it's a little bit of the Bane thing, like darkness. You merely adopted it. I was born into it type thing. Like at some point, you kind of embrace it, and it can be a little bit of fun to like be that sarcastic, semi-depressed sort of like Daria type character. If you have Daria, and I don't know. It's just like the normal things weren't working anymore, though. The just sitting through it, letting it last, listening to music that I listened to feel better, watching shows I watched to feel better. Hobby wasn't really, man. When Nagash went up 50 points, man, it was the end of the fucking world for me. You know, because everything when you get in that mindset is just an attack against you. Something
so small. Just the meaning behind that one little thing, and I'll use Nagash as the example, but there are obviously much bigger things that happened. That one 50-point change or whatever change it was, I imagine it's just like another domino falling over in the many dominoes that are happening in your life.
Yeah. And you pointed out really elegantly that part of what you had noticed is that I tie everything to everything. So like if feel like I'm failing in my hobby, I can feel like I'm failing at my job, and like they all interconnect. You know, the big one was writing. When I took that blow to I'm like, okay, it's okay, I'm laid off, but I can write my way out of it. The one talent I was born with, God damn it, is I went to school for this. This is my time. And I'm just like, felt really great about the story I wrote. Did the thing you do. You submit it to a bunch of people. Got a bunch of rejection letters. And I'm like, okay, I can't write my way out of it. I can't do anything. I'm helpless. I'm just stuck. So, real quagmire. And honestly, it started the way I saw through in the end. Support. Coach, Doom, actually, he sent me some personal messages too. There's something to be said from the kindness of strangers and external people, like seeing that you're going through something and wanting to say something to you. Because Molly, Lulu, she is the love of my life. We've been together 9 years. Like, we have 2 kids together, but she's like with me in all my strife, if that makes sense. So like what's happening to me is happening to her. And it's like trying to throw yourself a life preserver when you're both already drowning, you know, like, and it wasn't that like she wasn't trying to help, but it's like, you're on this boat with me that it's sinking. We need somebody out there to like hail us and throw us a life, like a life vest or something. But so that wasn't like the normal stuff. The normal stuff just wasn't working. Is a big sort of point of stress, I think.
Yeah, I think you've raised some really good points, and certainly some strategies that we can start thinking about. But it's hard sometimes to see the forest from the trees, and having that external observation, or that, I think you call that some really good points. Liam, is there anything that you'd want to share about I guess, just for our listeners, or for our guests, any about your story, or even a little bit about your diagnosis and how you feel about it?
Yeah, easy. How to describe it? I've been like this since I was like 12, 13. I've been like, it's one of those weird things where it's actually, if you're from Australia, that that's around the age when you go to high school. And high school was, I wouldn't really say it was the cause in a way, but it kind of was at the same time. But I got a lot of things happening in my family. My parents split, all that stuff. And like part of you knows that like you might have been like the thing. So like you get in that really bad mindset. And then it just kept going. And then I had this really weird phase when I was a kid where I actually got along with people not my age. Like I got along with people who were older than me. And then so with me struggling and finding friends and stuff, I felt super lonely. And then that grew into something else, such as depression and anxiety and just a whole bunch of other stuff. And I think it was just like, and then it just grew. And then since I just thought it was normal to feel that way at times, I just let it slide and just kept it going. Like it was just this normal thing. And so I've pretty much felt depressed for like still since then, really. Like it's very like on and off, as we've spoken about before. And anxiety is a common thing as well. But yeah, high school was rough, and just like it fucked me up in like so many ways, where it got me into like a lot of trouble. I wasn't blowing up toilet seats or anything, but like my attitude and stuff. And there was just times where like people literally said there's no point of you being around because you're not even bothering trying. And that affected me hugely. And I didn't really, and like as a kid, you're not really like trying to seek help kind of thing. Like I did end up seeking help as a teenager, near the end of high school, which I was like super grateful for. That psychologist, I kid you not, was one of the few people that saved me back then, due to dark thoughts did happen, and like may not have been here to this day if it wasn't for that psychologist who gave me the strategies, who gave me all this stuff to be like, hey, you can do this. And then yeah, she was pretty bowler. And then when you finish high school, I thought that was like my high. Like that was like, yeah, sick, I'm done it, I've hit the biggest roadblock for me. And like to give people an understanding with me in high school, it was just like, it wasn't the fact that I wasn't good at school, I just hated it. Like I just didn't like structure. Like Anthony, you know me now, when it comes to structure, sometimes I'm like not a huge fan of it, especially when we talk about like certain politic things and stuff. Like I'm very like particular of like how I want things done.
Fight the power.
Everything. Yeah.
So
like,
sometimes doing this show is like beating Liam with a proverbial structure stick.
Yeah, it's
but that's not you. Like sometimes you're put in situations where you're struggling, and it's because you're not you. You're not being authentic to you, and it's that struggle, right? Like it's just you're pushing back, you're fighting the system, and there's so much that happens behind the scenes. But sorry, please continue.
Yeah. So I just didn't get along with it, and then like people at school just looked at me as the emo kid. And for anyone who people are going to laugh when they hear this, but I went to one of those private schools where you pretty much got booked before you were born. Like my life path was already set kind of before I was born. Like you're going to this school, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. During that travels of my life, my family and stuff realized that it was probably a huge mistake to do that to me, because like I was very much not that kid that they thought I would be. And they've been super supportive about it, luckily. Like if my parents were supportive, again, super dark. But so when I finished high school, I was like, yeah, this is a great high, I'm done. And I felt happy for like a year. Like I think it was like a good year. I was like, yeah, cool, I'm in a good mindset, everything's fine. And then again, it just hit like a massive slump because real world life came in, and I was again super down, and I used my work, like my job as a photographer, to like escape heaps from it. Like it was just pretty much like it got me just like I was good at it. Like I'm like, okay, this is the only thing I'm good at, I can get this done, I can just do this, and it makes me happy. And then when the one thing you're good at becomes like your thing that you hate the most, like you start hating your job or whatever, then the slump gets worse. And I think last year, Magro, you probably saw me at my worst. I think there was like 3 or 4 months where I literally was just like, I was going in and out of like hospitals and stuff, and like seeing doctors and stuff, getting things sorted. I had a situation last year where I hit the biggest low of my life, I was in Japan, and I was probably at my like, and Japan's awesome. If anyone has been to Japan, it's the most beautiful country ever. And I wasn't happy. Like, I wasn't happy in like my dream country. And I had pretty much like, there was like a thing where like, if I didn't leave Japan, I probably wouldn't have come back because I just wasn't feeling safe at all. So I had to book a flight and come back to Sydney because I did not trust myself. Like, I knew that if I was still there, I would not trust myself. I'll probably do something stupid or do something that like I probably like would regret or hurt others. So I literally booked myself a ticket, came back, and I had to go seek help again. And yeah, it's just like the depression, the anxiety, and everything, just like all that stuff just coming together. It makes me go super slumped. But and the coolest thing ever is like I still have it every day. Like, it's just normal, but I have really cool friends and family and stuff that I can just talk to about stuff like this. Like, I can literally hit up my mate Dan, as most people know, Dan Brewer. I can literally call him up at like 2 a.m. because we're both night owls. I'm like, hey, dude, I'm feeling crap. Like, what are you up to? And we would literally go to like an internet cafe and play Total War or something, or whatever. But like what it is and like my condition, this is one of the things where, like, as I said earlier, it's part of me now. Like, it's pretty much like, you know how like on your resume, this is like your like what you get. Like, literally mine's just like super mentally ill, but I look at it as like a friend that you get like you argue with, because this mental health, if you can get over it, like if you can overcome it, even for like 3 months or something, you become such a stronger person because you learn so much about yourself when you do that. So yeah, like I look at it as a friend that you kind of hate, but at the same time, it pushes, like, it's that friend that pushes you to do better. And like, honestly, if I didn't have this like mental health thing, I would probably be the laziest kid ever. And I probably wouldn't have achieved as much as I did in my career, kind of thing. Like, I kind of used it as a weapon, if that makes sense. Like, I used it as like an ammo kind of thing, being like, everyone's like, oh yeah, Mike, I'm super happy, I love life, kind of thing. And I was like, nah, like, I'm doing, like, this is making me motivated to do something to make me happy. So I'm going to work my ass off to get like, so I can overcome this thing. And that's how I became like, it's like, give you an idea with my career. I went from like an assistant to like a full-time photographer in 7 months, which was like a record in my business. Like, the company that I work for, the last time when they hired a photographer, they were working there for 1.5 years. And I was like, nah, I'm going to do this. Like, I am motivated. And if it wasn't for my mental health, I wouldn't have been able to do it. Like, it was like pushed me so much. So,
it's awesome that you're able to embrace it. And I think that's for the people that I've worked with in the past, you know, when I say work with, not as professional, but, you know, friends and family and people who are, you know, in this situation, you know, a lot of the time there's certainly challenges when they don't embrace or even accept that they are having challenges and they're not okay, and they keep it to themselves. And it sounds like you found a way to embrace it and to use it to your advantage. Yes, absolutely. There are times where you're not okay, and you've shared a few strategies on what you can do to improve. But what I'm hearing from both of you is that mental health isn't just a light switch. It's not like you're on or you're off. And if you're not okay, there's no automatic light switch that just put you eat some candy, or you listen to a song and you're back to 100%. There's this constant battle every day, every minute, and something as simple as Andrew mentioned, Nagash's points change can be a trigger. That can be a trigger to something, and then the dominoes start to affect the people, the friends, the community, the people around us from a simple thing, because the association that we put towards that life event, which it can be trivial, which can be quite significant.
Well, it's the thing is like it's one of the things is like Liam talked a lot how like he views his depression like a friend, and I mean it's very like that's not how I term it, but it's very similar for me in that like it's just a thing that's with me always. This I actually used to call it like because of my insomnia, I have a lot of night terrors, and I have like sleep paralysis, the parasomnia, the classic parasomnia complement of sleep paralysis, night terrors, the works. I still have them. Somebody was like, "You're over the age of 14 and you still have them? That's fucking crazy." And I'm like, I guess. I mean, this is something I've always had. But I write really awesome horror fiction because I just write about the shit I see in my night terrors. But I've always called it my like darkness. Like I don't think of it like a friend. It's this like I just think that I have this like tar in the marrow of my bones that's always trying to seep out at all times, and I'm just fighting to contain it. And when it comes out, it's almost like fucking venom, like a symbiote, like where I just like I have to put on the armor and wear it, otherwise it'll consume me. And so like I've learned to like live with it and embrace it. The thing is like when I don't, and one of the things, this is a recent understanding I've had of it because, you know, I've always been depressed. Maybe not always like cosmically speaking, but since I can remember, you know, my mom was bipolar. She's self-medicated. She did not seek help. I was a punching bag for her and her boyfriends, literally. And then I ended up in foster care, and then I ended up with my grandma who didn't want me, and then I ended up with my aunt who didn't want me, and then I ended up with a different aunt who didn't want me, and then an uncle, and 6 different high schools.
Going,
6 different high schools. And I never got an even keel. Like just I was knocked off, I was knocked down early and often. And part of one of the things like Liam said where his depression kind of motivated him. And then there was another point a little bit earlier. How like you hate rigor and like a structure because you're in survival mode. For me, it's because I was in survival mode all the time. Like, how do you structure surviving getting the crap kicked out of you? You know, like, oh, it's 10 a.m. time to get woken up by being punched in the neck by my mom who's already drunk. Like, you don't write a schedule for that crap. You just survive. I kept all my crap in garbage bags up until I met Molly. Like, I moved by throwing all my stuff in black trash bags when we're moving like a nursery for a second kid. And like, I'm just like, she's like, Andrew, you haven't packed yet. I'm like, it's okay. Everything in a black trash bag, done in one hour. Yeah. Like, because, you know, and now that I've gotten older, I used to keep that, like I said, I'd fight to keep it in. And it took me a long time to realize that, like, actually letting it out and actually being okay with it was way more productive than hiding it and fighting it and pretending I'm happy when I'm not. Like, it's okay. And like the average person doesn't have like the full extreme necessarily. And like there's still a stigma around just being sad one day, right?
Yeah.
Like it's okay, man. Like it really is. And I think that's part of what both Liam and I, like we you know, he thinks of his as a friend and I think of mine like this like arch nemesis that's already inside of me. But we use it as a coping to like in our own way. And so mine is to be a villain too, like create personas, be a wrestling heel, like write horror stories and stuff like that that uses this stuff. Because if I didn't, I would lose it completely.
Yeah. And just like just one other quick thing, like when I was in high school and stuff, like my school, everyone at my school just was like, I wouldn't say like there were some people in my year that they were mentally able, they like declined it, and you could see that it affected them heaps. But they're like, no, like it's like I'm fine, blah, blah, blah. But you could tell that they're not. And like one of my best friends at the time, like kid you not, saved me by just saying like, "Are you okay, dude? Like, what's the go?" Like just asking that simple question literally made me realize, being like, because as we talked about like how there's a stigma around it. He literally just showed me that he just goes, all right, like this stigma that you think like that this thing is not, it's okay to talk about it. Which like, in honesty, like 6-7 years ago, it wasn't okay to talk about it. Like people just looked at you weirdly. Like everyone's like, what the hell is this? But like, it was such a huge deal when he said, are you okay? Because like, that was a huge stepping stone, I think, for like society to be like, yeah, this thing that you guys are going through are okay. Like it is okay, which it was like, it honestly was like the best fresh of breath air. Like it was just chill. So yeah, like for anyone who's like seeing something or feeling that way and no one's asking, are you okay? Then you need to go seek help, because like if you know it, but if you can see someone's not okay, ask them, because they're going to say, oh yeah, I'm okay, because that's like the allergic reaction. But the fact that you have double checked and they're okay inside, they're like, yes, like people understand that it's okay not to be okay. So yeah, like that's one huge thing that like helped me out when I was going through some stuff. So yeah,
And if I could expand upon that just before I ask my next question,
go for it.
asking if somebody is okay isn't the end. It's if I say, Liam, are you okay? Most people's natural reactions are to go, yeah, I'm fine, and leave it there. That's it. But if you can tell, online, face to face, the behavior, the language, the types of things that this person is doing is a sign and a trigger that it's not okay. At least, I'll always push a little bit further. Because often that can be a smokescreen, and they go back to doing their own thing, and by just, I guess, pushing people away. So if you know someone's not okay, push a little bit deeper. Really, challenge them, and it might be the fact that, look, I've noticed something a little bit different, or hey, the way you handle that's not always that's not normal, or not something that you would normally do. Just challenge a little bit would be my advice. With the are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
The reason we're doing the show today is because we are in this period of festivity where, depending on what religion you follow, obviously Christmas is the one that is most prevalent. But, we're in this season of celebration, whether it's through Thanksgiving, whether it's through Christmas. There's a lot of money being thrown around, and people are getting presents, and, lots of office parties and family coming together. And, this is generally a time that most people see as a really happy, forgiving, friendly, celebratory kind of environment. And with the lens of mental health, I think, through this festivity, we see that there's probably people that get left behind that aren't on that journey of celebration, that they are feeling like they're missing out, or the financial pressures of not being able to give gifts to their family or their friends, or, not being able to afford the luxuries of life that others are enjoying. And I think that pressure creates this environment of, whether it's toxicity or negativity or self, impacting the mind. So I guess I wanted to ask you both, and with the lens of mental health, like, what some of the challenges that you have been through, or people like you have been through during this time?
Liam, you want to go first, or?
You go first, man. You're
right.
the guest. I'm
right.
second guest, but technically host as well.
All right. Yeah, I fucking despise holidays. Every one of them except Halloween. This has been a historic event for me throughout. It's just, for Christmas for me, mostly it meant my mom. Back in the 90s, Christmas bonuses were kind of a big thing. They still happened a lot. So my mom would get a Christmas bonus. She'd blow it on her self-medication, whatever was in fashion at the time. Heroin was really big for her. Then we would wake up with no Christmas. I would go and wrap a stash of things I got the year before for my birthday, give them to my younger siblings, and tell them I was bad that year or whatever. That's why I didn't get anything. And I dreaded every Christmas. When I lived alone outside of college, I'd put up a tree and decorate shit. I didn't even know it was Christmas. I'd get up to go out the house to go like grab a burger or something and fucking forget it was Christmas. Like, I just hate them. This doesn't work for everybody, but I'll try to dial it in a different perspective. Having my children has made me try for them, because I'll be damned if they're going to grow up hating holidays. I don't, again, it's not necessarily, I'm not saying go have kids, you're going to have better mental health. That is not the take. But what I am saying is, if there's someone that you love, you respect, that's in your life, if you can see some of these holidays through their eyes, that empathy with them can help you. And that's what it has taken for me. So, I used to hate my birthday. Molly made a point of making it a big deal every year that she's been with me. And so now it's like, it's a fucking meme that it's like, I take the day off of work. I make a really big deal. She's actually created a goddamn monster. She's basically Frankenstein. I'm Frankenstein's monster. Now it's like, it's my birthday. I'm a total princess about it. But like it's taken, like, I've just needed other people to adjust my perspective. And I've needed a lot of time because of how much I just couldn't stand holidays for so long. My favorite holiday was always Thanksgiving growing up, because then I got a big meal. Grew up rather impoverished, so at least I got a big meal. So that was always my favorite. And I didn't have family, so I never got the like hating family part of it. You know, it was just like, I got a big meal. Cool. That was a good holiday. And then I liked Halloween because I got to put on masks and not be myself. Pretty simple. And you get candy, which is also food.
You can't go against candy, but it's, you know, like I think about this, and the reason I wanted to ask about this is that sometimes I'd say most of the time when we're in this festive season, we're so, I guess, inward reflecting. We think about ourselves, we think about what's happening very, very close to us, that there are people who are not feeling the same way. And it's remarkable just hearing your story and hearing some of the feelings. And it reminds me of, actually, so I'd asked some people on Twitter and Facebook about their stories, or maybe, you know, any questions that they have, and I will ask some of the listener questions. But someone was sharing a story with me, and I'll keep their names private. You know, one or two people that are very close to them in their Warhammer community have recently gotten divorced. And what they're doing this year is they're actually coming together for Christmas, and they're just going to have a meal together. Because they are in a very similar situation where they might be away from their family and their friends, and they're going to use this opportunity not to be a negative experience and, you know, remind themselves of what they're missing out, but to create new memories and new situations, and to improve that quality of life. So I love the reframing that you've just shared, and fascinating about the Halloween comment.
It's still the best, by the way. It's I love Halloween. That's why I do a month-long marathon through October. It's just, part of it's I overcompensate. Like, I recognize I've gotten something I think is the most important thing with mental health is perspective. I did not have perspective when I was younger. It was all inside me, what this is doing to me. Sometimes I didn't even have perspective. I'm just trying to, when you're in survival mode, you're not even perceiving, you're not even looking. You're just trying to survive and not take the hit emotionally, physically. You're just trying to survive. It took me through my 20s and into my 30s to like acquire perspective and be able to step outside myself, my situation, and like look at what's going on. So like holidays, like I still, man, I have this like knee jerk kind of hatred of this time of year. Not from a not like, oh man, fuck you guys for liking like Christmas. Like, it's just this like this visceral baseline, just because of what my brain chemicals have always associated this time of the year with growing up, that I have to consciously say, stop, look at other people, see how they're enjoying it, and then like feed into that energy a little bit. Or if you know, and then you follow the thumper thing from Bambi. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, because some people do truly love like Christmas. And, you know, like, yeah, I could make fun of malls and consumerism and yada, 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 because I'm just a sardonic asshole. But I choose to look at my friends who love the holiday. I choose to look at my children. I choose to look to shift my perspective and find good. And it's not always easy, but you know, like I said, I'm way overcompensating now. So like my house is decorated to shit. Because I've found things that I do enjoy. Which is, for me, it's always been creating, right? You know, I love Warhammer because whilst I suck at painting, I like creating a narrative with my opponents. I like creating an army list. I like creating, you know, so I create fucking decorations for the house. I create a memory for my kids. I create a new tradition, you know, like I find something to put out into the world that doesn't keep all my shit inside, for one, and for two, to like just change something. Like, I can't personally, I know I won't make it to 50 if I always feed the darkness, like if I always feed that tar in my bones. And so I'm just fighting it. I know a lot of other people, there is a seasonal component, right? That vitamin deficiency, get yourself a lamp that doesn't work, scientifically speaking, but the placebo effect does work. So if that'll work for you, get the lamp by all means. But like, like the sunlight deprivation that happens around this time, a lot of pressure, job layoff, seasonal layoff is a real thing. Like there's a lot of stuff that happens around this time that doesn't even have to relate to like having a terrible mom growing up. Like there's so many other factors. It's different for so many other people, and it can really be a struggle for them too. And I mean, like I said at the beginning of this, I'm no medical professional. I've just survived decently with a bad hand. And so like anecdotally speaking, for me, it's been shifting my perspective. And sometimes perspective doesn't help. If you're like, man, I got fucking fired, now I can't buy Christmas presents for my kids. What perspective can you take to like suddenly be like, fuck yeah, I'm crushing it, yo? Like, I don't have answers in that respect. Maybe someone else does, but I think part of it is also, it's okay to feel bad. It's just not, but just remember others along the way, I think, can help you, and they can help lift you up too. Right. Yeah.
I find these kind of seasons and like these holidays, when it comes to mental health, the big thing, and we've talked about this before, Magro, where it's this time of the year where people look back at what they've done this year and they get disappointed. And then when you start like pretty much like, for example, like I had goals of like doing like, I'd like a goal where I wanted to be in like 3 magazines or like 4 magazines, like really big ones. And like, that's my goal. And then when you don't reach that goal and then you're already mentally ill, you feel like you have just failed the whole year. Like you just think to yourself, like, what have I done for the past 12 months? And like this kind of thinking, and due to like Christmas and stuff, it's like that end of the year kind of thing. You start being like, what the hell am I doing? You start second guessing yourself. But then like as the festive season comes past, then you start thinking about new goals in a way, trying to get out of that ruckus in a way. But like the reason why festive season, like this is like one of the many reasons why this time of the year is really bad for mental health, is because people start second guessing themselves and they start getting into a really dark place. And like and that's when like, and it's kind of like where like New Year's revolutions come from. It's like New Year's revolutions are like a thing where people want to feel good, being like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym like every 2 days. And let's be honest, we do 1 day and we're done. But like, it's one of those things where like, that's kind of, it's like those kind of like mind thinking or goals. It's like chocolate. Like when you have chocolate, you feel good. When you have those kind of things during this time of the year, it's like chocolate where it just makes you feel good for like a short period of time. And suicides and stuff and like other things do kind of happen around this year. And like, and you get shocked when you hear about it. Because people think Christmas and stuff, it's all about happy and joy, when in real life, or like to some people, it's like, oh no, I'm second guessing myself. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of like these festive seasons because I worked in retail for like 4 or 5 years and I see a different view of it. I see a very, very different view of these kind of holidays. But yeah, like that's just my personal thing. Like, I don't really want to talk about that because that's not part of the show, really. But the big thing for me, the big thing with this, it's the mindset is what the festive season is really dangerous for. It's because you're in a really dark mindset because you're second guessing yourself.
Yeah, and look, to be honest with you guys, I don't want to dig too deep into people's pasts and histories. That's certainly not why we're here. But what I would like, the goal of this show, I guess, is twofold. The first goal is for people who aren't going through any or want to have more awareness when it comes to mental health. We're hearing from 2 people who have lived through it, who are dealing with it either currently or they've successfully passed. They're successfully dealing with it.
I think we're both dealing with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you're on a progression, or you are in a I guess a positive light. It's something that we can learn from. On the flip side, from your journey, there are probably people who are currently struggling today and
Yeah.
they don't know how to get out of their rut. They don't know how to tackle that demon that they have, and I'll very soon want to start asking and understanding how this hobby has really brought joy to your life, and how you're using it to fight back or to reframe your challenges that you're facing. So, yeah, again, not a psychologist. I will though bring up the banner again, if you bear with me, that just to remind you, if you are going through challenges, if you do need help, not only is it okay to be okay, is not to be okay, and to ask your friends, your family, your colleagues, your loved ones, to have a chat, but there are obviously professionals out there that can help you. So do reach out to whatever point of contact is in your community, your mental health crisis lines, or suicide prevention, or whatever issues you're having. There are a whole range of different networks, whether you're trans, whether you are a child, whether you are you just want to speak to a man and you want to go through men or women only kind of. There's so much out there. I can't stress how important it is to find help from your friends, your families, and professionals.
Yeah.
So to kind of transition into that, sorry, we're going to say something, Mister?
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, sometimes you don't always have the tools yourself, and sometimes not all your friends do, and that's where, like, you need professionals. Like,
Yeah.
I can listen to you. Send me a DM. I've since opened my DM since I became a talking head on the internet. Send me a message. I can't really solve any of your problems, but I can listen and I can give some perspective. And I think perspectives become kind of everything. Expectation management and perspective, those are like the two things that just have helped me a lot.
Sometimes you just want to chat. Sometimes just chatting, and I think Liam mentioned it at 2:00 in the morning. He picks up the phone, or texts somebody, notices on Facebook or Messenger who's online, and maybe you just need to chat. And having that friend or that confidant, and it's been wonderful. Everyone in the chat has basically reinforced what you guys have said. If you want to talk to them, people's lines are always open.
Well, I think it's a money where your mouth is sort of moment. We always talk about this being the best community, and I've seen it for real. Like, but like it would be just as easy, like, for 40K to be, oh, we have the best community, right? And then, like, it's hollow. There's, like, oh, MTG is the best community. Street Fighter, the best community. People can say stuff like that. What, to me, proves it is these connections, these people in chat that, you did reach out to me when I was having my sort of big breakdown at the beginning of the year. Like, that people do care about you in this hobby. Just, I think that's one of the things that just the great questions of the universe is, like, why are people so much more awesome in Age of Sigmar than anywhere else? I've been around nerd stuff my whole life. It's just like, once you start to, like, really lean into the community, even if you live on an island in, like, the Pacific Northwest, and you just watch content and share pictures of your models and hang out on Twitter and on Facebook groups and stuff like that, you will make connections that really do help with this hobby, as some of that stuff. And, like, don't get me wrong, there are people out there, they just want to see your models on Twitter, they don't want to talk, blah blah blah, and that's on them, and that's cool. Enjoy the things you love the way you enjoy them, like, by all means, that's your prerogative. But, like, there are, and that's when we talk about this stuff, it's, if all you care about is, like, seeing sweet models and stuff, like, hell yeah, man. Like, I'll share a bunch of my sweet models and keep scrolling past, like, my, what, fuck today, it all sucks. Like, scroll past that, But, like, the other people out there who go, yeah, fuck today, it sucks. And we'll, like, have a chit chat, we'll blow some steam, and we'll, like, keep going, because we kind of know where each other are coming from in this community. And I think that's kind of bringing it back a little bit to the Age of Sigmar has been relevant, is for me in this community. But yeah, sorry.
No, nothing to be apologizing about. Liam, how do I start a conversation when I'm not okay? If I'm someone who's struggling, if I'm feeling the pressures of the festive season, and or it doesn't have to be the festive season. It's just as you pointed out, a time where these emotions can really be ramped up to 11 because the fear of failure, of not achieving my goals, or the fear of missing out because others around me have more of what I want, or whatever it might be. How do I start that conversation with that friend or that family, or that community, or even professional?
So one thing for first things first, you need to like work out the signs of like, if you are like, is it this, or like, is it anxiety, or is it like that? Like, first work it out, just like work out like how you're feeling. So because when you start this conversation, you have to describe how you're feeling, because you can't just be like, oh, I'm feeling crap. And they go like, well, what are you feeling? Like, is it like, are you eating? Are you doing this? And if it's like all that stuff, then they stop. And some of your mates be like, okay, cool. Like this, I'm not saying they're professionals or anything, but they can kind of get a little bit of a grasp of like what's going on in your headspace. But one thing is you just got to work out like who is the friend or who's that family member that you can talk to. So first things first, you kind of like got to like work out a list in your head of like, who are my go-to people to talk to quickly about this? So like, let's say for example, top person I can think of is Dan Brewer, right? So let's just say like I'm fresh, like I just had this and my best friend is Dan Brewer. I would literally have to hit him up. I would literally just be like this, like, hey man, like how you going? And he'd be like, yeah, I'm good. How are you? And I'd be like, hey man, like look, I'm not that great at the moment. I'm currently just like feeling a bit of like a slump and everything. You just kind of like describe how you're feeling, and then your mate could easily be like, oh, that really sucks. Like, and your mate could, and the thing is that your mate could go two ways. It's kind of be like, I would recommend to go seek help, or they'd be happy to just listen. Right? If your mate goes, oh, I would recommend to seek help, kind of thing. And it's not like, and this is really important if you're that friend, is don't make it sound like you're palming them off. Just being like, hey, I don't think I'm the best person for advice, but I'm happy to listen. Because again, you want professional help. You don't really want like a backstreet doctor. Like you just want like someone who like can help and build strategies. And like your mates, and like the fact that like you just need to tell your mate that you're not feeling well, because then they can now know that like if you want to hang out with them, it's like for the distraction or for a coping mechanism. So the fact that I've had this conversation with Dan, if I ever hit him up, be like, hey man, like can we hang out? He'll know, okay, cool, Liam must not feeling well. Let's go play Switch, or let's go do some painting sessions at the local GW store. Like let's do something like this. So like this conversation that you just started has now like opened up yourself as like it's a way to cope, to be like, okay, cool, if I'm feeling down, I can go to my friend and talk or just like distract. When it comes to family, you can literally be like, hey mom, or hey uncle, or whatever, like I'm not feeling well, kind of thing. They will always be welcome to be like, most of your family will probably just like, if your family is like this, like I know mine would be like, oh, do you want to come over for dinner? And like, or do you want to go to the pub or something or whatever and do this and that? Like, it's like, and the most important thing when you do this, it's don't use this as like, oh, this is my cure. Is like, all I have to do is like hit these people up and I'm good. Like these are just a way to cope while you're getting your strategy sorted. Because when they say, oh, okay, cool, because what you got to do is during this time is you're going to seek professional help after, like, not immediately, but like when you're comfortable enough to talk to a stranger about it. Because like it's not the easiest to talk about how you're feeling to a complete stranger that you've met in the first 30 seconds. So yeah, and like in Australia, what we can do is you go to your GP and you explain how you're feeling, and they'll give you a test. Like they're giving you like a how you feeling test. Like, do you feel like this? Yes or no? Or do you strongly agree with this? It's this weird test that they do, which it's not perfect, but it kind of puts you in a category of like, do you need to go to a specialist like facility? Like, do you need to go to a psych ward, or do you need to do whatever? And then we have this thing in Australia called a mental health plan, which covers like 5 sessions. Like not all of them, but like a few, like cuts the cost of seeing a psychologist quite dramatically from like a $300 session to like $100 or whatever. Like it, depending where you go, but it cuts off quite a bit. And then you do that, and then you do like 5-6 sessions. And then this is how, just having that first conversation with your friend, now you've built the confidence to now start talking to people about it, like, I'm not saying publicly, but like to a stranger. And that's how you go about it, really. Like, you first start off finding your friend that you can trust, and someone who you know that just won't be like going up to everyone like, oh, like Liam's depressed, or like Liam's blah blah blah. You need to know that friend enough that like you go, cool, I am trusting you with this. If there isn't anyone, call those helplines that we called before.
Yeah.
Because
you're not alone.
Because it's not face to face, and as we mentioned before, you can do it online. You can type or whatever. Because I know there's some cases, right? And when I did this when I was a teenager. I didn't want to be on the phone to someone in case my parents heard me talking about that I'm depressed, because then you don't want them to get worried, kind of thing. So I did it like online, being like, hey, blah, blah, and making it sound like that I'm on Facebook. Like that's something. And that is just starting that conversation. You start then talking to someone professionally, and then you have worked out a strategy. Like you then feel the confidence to do it. And then you probably turn out like me and Andrew, where you feel confident to talk about it to the open world on the internet.
Now and like throw it on blast now. Yeah.
You guys
like Kobe just behind the arc, man, throwing it out.
Like I can say this right now is like, if I didn't have these conversations with people, and I wouldn't be like what I am today, where I wouldn't say I'm a life coach or anything like that, but like I have people at my workplace. I have some of my assistants and a few other people. They know that like they can come to me, and they know that like I can listen. I don't give life advice. Like, I'm not like a professional, but with my life experience, I can be like, hey, like if you're feeling like this, can I ask you this? Like, are you eating? Are you sleeping? Are you doing this? And they go, oh no, I'm not. I'm like, okay, cool. What you're gonna do is you're gonna do this. You don't need a full meal. You just need a snack, or you need that. Like, I can just give them little strategies from what I've learned from my personal experience, and they can take it. Like, and I'm like this. I'm like, it's up to you if you take this on, but like, this is my little tips I can give you. And like, this is all started from when I just had a conversation with someone, being like, hey, I'm not feeling well. This is how I'm feeling. Just a heads up. Like, it's not even like you expect them to cure you. You just go, just a heads up. This is how I'm feeling. And then everything, I wouldn't say it gets perfect, but it gets better.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. You when you mentioned like eating, sleeping, stuff like that, this ties into like something mentioned earlier, fighting the stigma. Physical. It's your mental state is tied to your physical body. Your brain is physical, everybody. Spoiler. Yeah. Like, if you're not eating, sleeping, yada yada yada, if those are things that you can change physically as a decent quick start. Like, there's a difference between having a different meal and changing your diet. Just one quick solid meal on a day when I actually call it the Zen burrito.
Yeah.
I have this concept of the Zen burrito. I have like a go-to meal at Qdoba, which is the make your own burrito chain thing.
Yeah.
Like, where it's based on an Onion article. The Onion article, for 6 minutes, man won't give a fuck about the world or something like that, and while he eats delicious burrito. And that's where, like, have a good meal, take a nap, like it's fine to change some of these physical states, to change your behavior. But back to kind of what you were saying about starting the conversation, to rewind a little bit, I have a sector of friends that, that's just Andrew being Andrew again. Like, those aren't the people I'll talk to when I'm being quote unquote Andrew again, right? Like, I think the first step, though, is doing like a quick self-diagnostic, where you go, is this the normal type of, like, I'm upset that I messed up at work, or is that going to continue once I leave work, right? Like, what you have to kind of run a self-check on where you're at, and then start that conversation exactly how Liam said.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, couldn't agree more. I always believe that what the mind harbors, the body manifests, and it's, I think about, and this is clearly a non-mental health situation, but I'm sure we're all in a situation where we wanted to exercise, maybe go to the gym, and you don't feel like going to the gym, you don't feel like going to the gym, and somehow you convince yourself, you're like, look, I'm just going to go for 10 minutes, and you convince yourself to change. You get to the gym and you go, look, I'm just going to do 10, 15 minutes maybe on the bike. And what you find is that you don't you don't just do the 15 minutes like you initially agreed upon. You probably do that 45 minutes to an hour workout. And the reason for that is because those endorphins that are happening in your brain will start to override the feelings of negativity in your body. And, you know, you really start to lift. So that mind and body are very much interconnected. And, you know, you guys have mentioned earlier about, you know, using music to drown out that self-talk. You've talked about food and sleep, and if you're finding an imbalance, you know, through your physiology, it's often going to negatively impact your emotions. So even looking for those triggers, are you sleeping? Are you eating? Are you well rested? Are you, you know, these all play a huge part. But one thing that brings you both to me today is the love of the hobby, and whether it's the painting, the wargaming, the community element that happens in between our games. I wanted to ask, how has the Warhammer hobby impacted your mental health? What has it brought to the table for you all?
For me, it has been a lot of the community. Isolation has been a big component of my mental health. You know, a lot of the stories I did share, it's usually a story of like being isolated, being removed, being abandoned. Isolation is a big problem for me. So much so it becomes one of my go-to strategies when I feel like crap is I fucking isolate myself from everybody, family, loved ones. Focusing on the community aspect of Age of Sigmar has like built bridges off of my tiny little like island. I know that I've got these little like expressways where I don't have to like stay on my island and deal with my shit. I can just be like, you know what's really awesome? Fucking Nagash. Let's talk about Nagash. And I talk, you know, like, you know, I can get these little bridges off of my island with this hobby. You know, I have a bit of a take on like faction loyalty. And there's a couple outliers out there that don't have like a faction loyalty, and I'm just like, you're weird. You're a weird person. But like, I've noticed that like Age of Sigmar players have like their faction loyalty. Like I'm Death player through and through. Love my Death Army. Coach, you've got your gets a little bit, but certainly Empire, right? Like Empire. And then like everyone's got their like little faction. Orc players are always Orc players. Like they're just, I think they're the most token faction loyal in the entire world. Followed strangely by probably Khorne. Actually, like Khorne players seem to be like live, breathe, die Khorne. But I find that because you have this thing that means a lot to you, Warhammer means a lot to me, but you have these like innocuous conversations that have a lot of emotion in them, that have a lot of joy in them, or anger too, like fuck Sigmar, that guy sucks. Like you could have these connected conversations that have a lot of emotional enrichment one way or other. Get out the bad feelings, bring in the good feelings, do the whole gamut. You're able to get outside of yourself when you get in that cycle for me, or that spiral. I can feel it coming on, and I go, I feel the spiral coming on. You know what? I'm gonna paint a model, which is something I'm consciously trying to get a lot better at. So that's something I've been recently focusing on, is hobby specifically. Like I want to paint a model now. Like the problem with like writing as a strategy for me for getting outside of my negative state is like, yeah, I create something, but usually I'm locked inside my head with myself when I write a story. Like it's just me and all the voices inside, like having a fucking conversation. And that's not good. The thing that the hobby does is it provides other people. It's not just you in Age of Sigmar. It's everybody else in Age of Sigmar.
Yeah. And
before
I hear from Liam, I just want to call out Rerolling One's Jack. It said, the community is my favorite part of the hobby. 95% of the interactions have been positive ones. And I couldn't agree more. I've traveled to England to Blood and Glory. I went to Adepticon. And Liam, I know you went to New Zealand. I've traveled around the country so much. And even before I was a hashtag content creator, when I went to England, even when I went to England, I hadn't even started this channel. This was actually prior to England.
This is a long time ago. Yeah.
It was. I think I went to Blood and Glory 2017. So this was before
Yeah.
I was anybody. I don't think I even had a Twitter, but
No,
the
you had you definitely had a Twitter.
did I?
You definitely had a Twitter. I remember.
Okay. All right. Well, either way, the point was that, going over to these communities have just fully embraced, they're just like, we've got this commonality, this love of the hobby, and it doesn't matter what political side you're on or my sexual orientation, or doesn't matter. The fact is, we're all here. We love a game of Warhammer, and the community embraces one another. Yeah, we banter and shit talk about, Nagash being hot garbage because Sigmar is the best, but very much there is this love, and I think the community is wonderful. Liam, how has this hobby impacted your mental health?
So it's kind of weird. Like this hobby, the big thing that helps me cope is the painting. That's the big part, and it's like impact because it calms me down. I'm very much like, how do we describe? We described this at my work Christmas party last night, where I think it's like introvert extrovert, where I am super happy to be like, I hands down am a like massive introvert most of the time, and then if I need to be like an extrovert, like for example in tourneys and events, I can be. Like we know that like I'm a character at events. Like Anthony sometimes is like, "Shut the hell up, Liam." I was like, "Yeah, okay, cool, no problem." We have these conversations a lot, but like with me being introvert,
we're like a married couple now.
Yeah, it's great.
It's adorable, by the way.
I'm told.
People love it, but we have like with me being an introvert, I enjoy the painting side where I get to be like headphones on, silent, like. I have like noise cancelling headphones. I can watch my anime or whatever while I paint. I'm in my own little world. My current new partner hates it because I don't reply to her messages within 45 minutes, but it's my escape kind of thing. Like I get to escape, I get to chill, and I get to forget about my work problems and everything because of it. And the one thing about it is, as we mentioned before, is community. I have not like when I left high school. So like when I left high school, I had like during high school, there was 210 kids in my year. It's a pretty big year, and like so, it was like 200 boys in my school. And to give you an idea, like I was friends with people, but I only had like one true friend. Like I only had like one friend, and then when I left high school, I became a nightclub photographer, and I had multiple friends from like different nightclubs and stuff. Like you become a social butterfly, you just do whatever, you go to different groups. And then, like, again, I look back at it and I'm like, I only had like one or two true friends then. And then what this hobby's done, in especially our community in Sydney, is I have now found a group of people where I can call them like pretty much my second family, which is rare. Like I can call Clan Filth and even like some of the D3 Mortal Wound guys that I hang out with sometimes family. Like I know that like if I'm having a rough time or whatever, I have a group of 10 plus people that I can go up to and be like, "Hey guys, I feel like crap." And then like same thing with Magro, like this community, like if I didn't get to meet Magro couldn't hear me vent last year being like, "This is shit," and stuff. So like this hobby has opened up a window because, and this is a huge thing, is because this hobby has attracted like-minded people. Like I wouldn't say we have the same politician views or everything, or like that we think that this Rogue One is the best Star Wars ever made, but like we have, yeah, like as I said, like we have, like everyone has different views.
No comment.
Like we have, but like the thing is that the community has different views, but we still attract like-minded people that they understand what you're going through, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like we're not exactly. I'm not saying we're clones where we're like, oh, we're the same human. But we all go, you know what? I understand your situation a little bit better compared to someone that you probably like know from work. Like if I compare my nerd friends and my workmates, like 100%, like even though my workmates, we're all photographers, we're all creators, like everyone's like, oh yeah, photographers are all the same. But I'm like, hell no, we're not. Like we are complete opposite. Like to give you an idea, at my workplace, there is 11 photographers in my team. I only get along with one of them. Like there is 11 other photographers who are creatives, and I only get along with one of them. So like the fact that like this community, I get along with more than just one person, and like they understand what you are. And like Clanfield, for example, these guys that they're just like, Liam, if you need anything, if you need us to play a game, or if you want to do a painting session, or you need to do anything, we'll meet you at blah 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 store. And like, well, I'm like, hey guys, I'm feeling like shit. Can we do a hobby day? Within 20 minutes, we're in the city store painting.
Yeah,
like it's like this. The hobby has introduced me to a community, and like I know there's gonna be some people who are like have like communities that aren't like this, but the online presence as well. Like I have people from the UK. I remember, I don't know if you guys remember, but like I think it was like 3 or 4 months ago, I was in hospital due to I struggled with like sleep, and like I couldn't, like I had a really bad like health thing where my whole heart and everything was just fucked. And the fact that I had people from all over the world just be like, you okay? Like even like 2 weeks after, I had people message me being like, hey, how you going? Like, are you getting better? Like, what's the go? Like, is there anything we can do? And I was like, I'm sweet. But like that there is huge.
Yeah.
Like, and it's all because of this one hobby. Like, so yeah, it's pretty killer.
I have a hypothesis.
But yeah,
that like,
I love a hypothesis.
Yeah. I think because there's a creative component to the game, even though you might not have the pure hobbyists, like you have people who like paint to just get their army on the table, and I'm very much have traditionally been in that category. I'm trying to step up my hobby game now. Like it forces you into a certain mindset when you're painting, regardless of if it's task based or creative based, because it doesn't need to be all about like my feelsies when I do art. You know, it can just be like I'm trying to complete the task, but it still forces you into a certain headspace. And I think because we often end up in a similar headspace as a person who has to put models together and to play the game and stuff like that, I think that forces you into a certain headspace where you just jive with people a little bit better. If that makes it's a thin hypothesis, but I think there's something to be said for that. The other component of that, and someone brought up D&D a little bit earlier here, Manny, in chat. They've done some really serious studies about Dungeons and Dragons in terms of like empathy in humans. Like empathy is one of those things that like you have to just like develop. You don't just like start with empathy. Children actually are like kind of little tiny monsters. They don't have like a filter. They are only about like their immediate needs, and they constantly misconstrue what their needs are. They're basically tiny psychopaths. Like you develop empathy. It's something you develop over time through upbringing, your brain just natural development plays into it. But they've done a ton of studies on how D&D helps kids and especially children on the spectrum develop in like a sort of empathic capacity. So I think we see some of that D&D sort of developmental qualities in Age of Sigmar, because there is a lore component. There is you're not maybe playing a single character, but when you play an army, you have whether you realize it or not, you have a persona that becomes attached with that. If you're playing orcs, gonna get in their face and smash them. You know, like you take on a persona on the table because the game is actually in a pretty great state. You know, some people might pan it for various reasons, but when it gets right down to it, if you step back and look at it, the game, most armies play the way the army should play. You know, so
I would argue that happens at the hobby start. Like when you start the very first time and you pick that color scheme. And I've said it a few times this week where one of the players in the Sydney community has painted up a grot army, and his grots were purple or blue skin. Now, I don't want to put him in a bucket and say that's not normal, but it's clear that, you know, the box art is that a grot is green.
Well,
so I was going to say, what's the decision and what's the story behind it? Why did you do what you did? And you know, by asking the question as well, I get to hear that expression of creativity and that personality persona coming out, and you know, it's a beautiful thing. And I think we are very fortunate that we have these tie-ins to express who we are and what we are, and
Yeah, I think because you have, and again, like you have that pure competitive, like we see a lot of players coming over from like MTG, and I actually have a couple of them that message me. I'm sure Haywo's got even more that message him about how to make the transition from MTG to AOS. And I'm like, the first thing you need to recognize is the players here are different. In MTG, usually if you think someone's nickel and diming you, they might be. Here, it's usually just someone really did forget their rules. It's a little bit different. I'm sure there's layers to it as you get on top tables and so on and so forth. But when you first come over here, you are not a top tier table player, so worry about that later. When you come over here, you need to you're gonna, even if you start playing it like competitive, I'm gonna bust people's chops. You still have to you still gotta make your army. You still gotta pick your army. You're still gonna unintentionally develop a persona, make a connection, and kind of put yourself out on the table. And I think that's something that you don't see in other games as directly. D&D is an easy parallel, but once we start talking about other tabletop games, I don't think you see that as much.
Yeah. And Berserkers had made a good point that interesting armies are always a good conversation starter. Mm-hmm. I forced it at Sydney GT. Every year I force it by providing one tournament point for people who put named characters in their list. I'm not talking about Alariel and Durthu. I'm talking about you going in and physically naming each of your little lords and ladies. And for me, that's an important expression because I want to know more about someone's army and I want to know the narrative, just so it's not just a competitive smash and grab. So,
okay. So I would have gotten a tournament point for my Necromancer, Rasputin Lancaster.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Last year, I remember, I think it was Sam Morgan or it was Hayden Walker had named all of his hag queens like different African-American female gangster rappers. So I think it was like
that was Hayden.
It was Hayden. It was beautiful, but if an opponent comes to me and has 5 hag queens, and I'm not going to try to pretend that I know rap, but that's a conversation starter. It's a bit of a lulz, but it's also a great way to start the game. So
we had one guy this year who had a paragraph name, and
my gosh.
Yeah, but
it was literally a paragraph. It was literally a paragraph.
Yeah, it was a paragraph name, but it was just one of those things where you have that conversation. So I'd be like, "What made you think that?" It just goes, "Oh, I just thought it'd be really funny and cool." I'm like, "Okay, cool." Now, since you had to change our formatting time, we're gonna make you say this name every time you cast a spell. But it was kind of that fun thing because you kind of know that he was just having a bit of fun and it was his cool little escape, and he even had more fun doing that. But one thing to bring up with colors and stuff, Mago. I know there's some people who use the same color scheme because they interact, they relate to that color quite a lot. We always know, and we always joke around about this still in my gaming group, where I am the king of pink. I always need to have pink in my army. And it's this weird thing where I find pink one of those colors which it's just it's one of those things where it's a bright, happy color in my mind, cherry blossom pink, because I really like cherry blossoms. So I have to have
Japan again.
Particular things. Yeah. So everything in my army, all my armies have to have a bit of pink in it. And it's just kind of yeah. But
purple for me.
Yeah. I've just done purple. I just gone into purple. So yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of what the hobby is with me with mental health. But it has helped me out heaps with my journey.
Do you think because there is that emotional connection with your models and stuff like that, picking the colors, coming up with sweet names, building a list, do you think because those emotional connections, whether intentional or not, are factors in the mental health side of it? Because you do have an emotional component invested in the game?
Yeah, I know for a fact that let's say for Sylvanev, for example, was my first army, getting back into it. And redoing it as well. And it was kind of cool because we compare when I first came into the hobby as a kid, and using those particular colors, the pinks and stuff. And I went for a really bright color scheme. It was really pale pinks and stuff. And looking back at it, that's probably when I was really I was really happy in my life. And that's kind of colors I picked. And then when I redid my Sylvanev and Magro's seen my new Sylvanev, it's a lot darker. I went from super bright to darker. And I'm not saying it's because over time when I got into hobby, I was depressed, But over time with the hobby, I feel way more comfortable showing that I have a darker side color palette, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like if I went from like a really dark monochrome scheme straight away, everyone's like, what is this kid doing? Like, is he like straight up? But since I feel comfortable enough to go for a darker scheme and stuff, and like I'm comfortable being like, yeah, like I have a darker color taste and darker side, and I'm happy to showcase it on my armies and stuff. Yeah, and like all my armies afterwards have been darker. It's because I feel comfortable enough emotionally to show off that like I have a darker color palette, darker side. So yeah, it's definitely comes to it. So
yeah, that's cool.
And that's just me. And there's a few other people who are like that. Like we have one guy in Queensland who uses the same 3 colors. Like all his armies are the 3 colors. Like there's not been, and I think Magro knows the guy that I'm talking about.
Yep.
Where it's just the 3 colors. Like he goes, I'm starting a new army, and you immediately know, like you already visually can tell what his army is going to look like. Like you already know you know the colors and everything. But those are colors that he emotionally interacts with. He jokes around saying, "Oh, they're the only colors I have," but he is like attached to those colors because one, they make him feel good when he paints those colors, and he's really good at it. And yeah, like it's definitely a huge part of it because it makes him feel good.
Well, there's an identity associated with it too. You're like, this is my army, you know. And when anyone validates the army, they validate you. Like you go,
yeah,
this is my army with my colors.
Yeah.
And they go, those colors look great. They're saying you look great.
Yeah, like that's literally like he does a really good job with these colors, and you tell him like these are really cool colors, and he knows that, so he just goes, "Cool, yep, this is the thing." But yeah,
and you know, I certainly felt that when I did my grots, and I put little mushroom hats. So for anyone who hasn't seen my grots, I mentioned that I painted the hoods a certain color, red, blue, or purple. And what I had done was then just put little tiny white dots to stimulate a mushroom effect on the hats. And the amount of people like, oh my God, that's amazing. You know, and I'm like, was it creatively the best executed? No. But they visually looked really, really good on the table. And that validation of, you know, that is something that's unique. It's now owned by me. And people really enjoy it. You know, it makes you feel really good. It makes you feel special. And, you know, when you then go see people replicate it, it's great to know that you started a trend through your creativity, that validation that you mentioned. So before we move on, I just want to call out, and I was looking at my phone really rudely before because I want to call out that particular player's character name that's literally a paragraph. So it's Suffixolence, or I'll mispronounce that one. The Grand Illuminata, Bane of the Shadow, Archpriest of the Scourge Entropic, Festering Claw of the Dark, Architect of Decay, First of Many, Chosen of the Clan of... this is massive, it's huge. It's a huge one. But anyway, long story short, that was an expression of that person. So I think it's amazing. And this hobby has probably helped so many people. I'll share one of my personal stories, and that is... probably like many people, we started the hobby when we were young. We fell out for a period of time when we chased girls, university, alcohols, or like just driving around, being cool, like whatever it is that you do. People drop out for a little bit. And I have a model that was given to me by probably one of my closest, dearest friends, Deke, the Lord of Death himself. Deke and I got into the hobby when we were really young. In fact, I got him into it when I think we were like 13. But during 8th edition or 7th edition, I dropped out. And he had given me a model. He had given me an Empire standard bearer, a metal one with his beautiful flag. And he gave it to me as a birthday present. And I dropped out of the hobby at that stage. But to him, the connection of Warhammer was super important because we would play on weekends. We would, hang out and talk Warhammer, and that part of our lives had disappeared. And he'd given me this model that even though I wasn't playing, I always kept in the blister pack. And when he just kept going at me, he was vicious. He would just constantly harass me about playing Warhammer again. And I jumped back in 8th edition, after like a year or two's disappearance. While I was at university. But I always had that model. And then when I come back, that was a critical piece. And then I painted it up, I put it in my army, and I still have it to this day, even though it's a pain in the ass and it's a metal flag and it always falls over. The fact that model has a story, and that friend kept persisting because it was more than just a game. It was a token of our relationship, and I'm very thankful for that one single purchase decision. So, and obviously that led to me meeting Liam, and then it's led to me meeting you. So this one domino has triggered this amazing, I guess, story, and I guess, series of events that have occurred later.
Well, we talked about the mental health is physical, right? Like, it's your brain exists. I think that that physical nature of our game, which is almost like it can't be replicated in a digital sense per se. You take photos of it, cool, but like I haven't seen like a Total Warhammer is great, but it's not Age of Sigmar. Like it's not the same game, right? There's the game is physical too, and so it's reinforcing the physicality of relationships and our mental state and stuff like that. It's creating little like totems essentially and tokens of our relationships and how we feel and how we connect to people. I think that's because it's that cyclical reinforcement of a physical state. I think that's part of why it helps the mental health so much. Whereas like I talked about, like when I write stories, like I tell a story and I'm creating something which I need to do as just a human. That's how I align myself. But I'm like locked in my own space. When I paint a model, like I'm taking what's inside and I'm putting it out there. Part of something I didn't mention, I probably should have just been mentioning constantly, is making Rantcast has also been really good for my mental health. It's given me something to give back to the community, which is part of like where I'm like, okay, like I love this community. And that's my sort of money where my mouth is moment. Like, if I love the community so much, well, if you love the community so much, why don't you just bury it? Well, I did. I gave it Rantcast, which is my engagement ring. So, yeah.
And you don't have to be a content creator to love the community.
No. That was a me thing. I need to create. That was part of it.
For sure. I just want to, just getting involved and, if you're someone who's sitting there going, I don't have this community, I don't have this network, the easiest way to do it is to get on Instagram or to get onto Facebook or to get onto Twitter. And, even if you are, building your professional brand or your hobby brand, just liking, commenting and engaging with other people, you will build this network. People just didn't jump on a Twitter and show their pictures and I'm amazing. No, it's the engagement and finding the common interests and building relationships that come over time. Liam and I met, I think the first time we properly really got to know each other was there was a tournament called... we got to know each other at Games Cube, and we got to meet each other at Warhammer. We played games, but when did I really get to know? There was random interactions through the early years of Sigmar. But we got to know each other on a trip where we both traveled to a tournament, BrizCon in 2017. We didn't travel together, we didn't stay together, but we met at an event, and we over these. I guess what I'm trying to say is that over a series of interactions, I'm like, oh, I know that guy, and slowly our relationship built, and we got talking more and more and more, and over time, the garden has bloomed, and we have a great relationship. And this is just one of many. So getting yourself involved, whether it's attending events, going and sitting in your local games workshop or your local gaming store and painting, and getting to know the people in your community, or following people and then liking them and commenting on them, over time that will reap its rewards, and you will build an amazing community around you. So and that's obviously on top of the physical people that are around you. So
well, this is like where I advocate a lot, getting to a tournament. I'm talking to like the new player or the person who's like locked in his LGS. When I say that a lot, is like, do yourself a favor. I know it's not financially speaking, travel wise, like you may live in like a sort of tournament desert. It's got to be like a freaking life goal at that point to get to a tournament. But like, if you love the game, yeah, put it on your calendar 3-4 years down. You know, buy one less 6-pack of beer every week or whatever your vice is. One less box of those sick ass Chaos Warrior models that you know you're not going to paint. You're just buying them because they look great. Save up for a ticket. Go to a tournament, because you're gonna meet some people that might not have come into your circle organically, you know, through just the standard Twitter interactions. That being said, you don't have to go to a tournament. I just think it's a really good, like, you know, some people go to Disneyland. A tournament is our Disneyland as an Age of Sigmar player, right? Like, but you can still form really great bonds. Tomb King Tristan, for instance, he wasn't in chat here, but his name came up earlier. Tristan Gray, him and I have never met, but like we have a very strong like connection and friendship just from like talking on Twitter, ending up in the same Discords, the same chats all the time. Like we see each other in all the same little like content creator circles, you know. Yeah, he's a moderator over on the Honest Wargamer. He goes in, I talk shit about Cetra, get temporary banned from the chat for like 90 seconds. It's part of our rapport. Like, you can build very strong connections without some of that other stuff that I like, just because I talked about, you know, make content and all that stuff. You can form these really great connections just by being part of the community, being active on Twitter, Instagram, going into Warhammer weekly chat on occasion, you know, talking to people, just being around, and then people start to recognize you, and you tend to, like, again, you've got your faction loyalties, which you'll build some bonds that way, and then like you'll find out that you have something in common, a favorite band in common with somebody, being a mental health proponent, you know, like you'll find that you have those extra connections, and that's when you form these, like wrestling, for instance. AOS coach and I, like, we kind of bonded over that with his Brahma Bull tattoo. Like you form those extra connections, and then you really start to like really get a foothold in the community. That's when you really make some real lasting friends.
Yeah, I can happily say I have probably made friends for life from this hobby. Like the fact that like couple of the Clan Filth guys are coming over to my place for Christmas because they just don't have anywhere to go for Christmas really. So I'm like, yeah, come along, like hang out with my family at Christmas. Like similar to what you said before, you just go cool. And yeah, it's just really awesome community, and it does help heaps.
By the way, can I just rudely interrupt you and get you to share the story of how Clan Filth was born? Because this is a really interesting one, and I think people probably have similar stories in their own life, but it's a fascinating one, at least to me.
So Clan Filth was interesting because it was just this thing where like originally it was a group of 4 people. And I wasn't in it.
Club? Is it a club? Is it a
It's a gaming group that we don't have like a gaming venue, let's say. Like we're happy to play anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But we've been very well known in Australia as like one of the top competitive teams. However, it's weird because we're also the most most of the time are super supportive of each other. There's times where we're not, but then we like slap each other and be like, let's wake up and let's get back into what we're good at. But it was a group of 4 guys who hung out at one store, and they didn't know each other at all till this, till AOS started. And then Dan Brewer and myself, we started playing in the city heaps, and we got to hang out heaps. And then we all went to the first CanCon of AOS. And then we got talking, and because we saw each other heaps around Sydney, we got talking and stuff. And then we started a slow grow as a thing, because we all wanted one objective where we wanted to do a new army. So we started, let's do a slow grow. And then we started playing more and more. And then we started realizing, like, hey, we get along really well. Let's go travel together to Brishammer, or like a BrisCon. So we started traveling to that event, and we did that together. And that was like the first trip where we like got to hang out together. And then again, we got to know each other. And then we're like, okay, cool, let's do this other event together up in Queensland. And we started traveling. And literally it was this kind of thing where like when Clan Filth went, if we saw an event, we would all be like, let's go, guys, let's go. And then we became super supportive, and we always were next to each other. And like Anthony probably saw this, like when one of our team members were playing games, we would be next to them, supporting them. We wouldn't tell them what to do. But we would literally be like, hey man, you can do this. And it would be like fist pumping or high fiving or get them drinks or whatever. And it was like we're super supportive when it comes to that. Like when Matt won CanCon, we all ran up to him and just high fived him and cheered because we're like, what the hell just happened? Like, how did this happen? Like when Ash did really well with like his off medal list, again, we all cheered and stuff. And if any of us are like, and when Dan, for example, went to the UK and traveled and played there, we were messaging him, cheering him on. Like it's this group where it's super supportive, but it all started because we saw each other heaps and we realized that we all had one similar goal where we wanted to travel and play Warhammer around Australia. So we stuck together. We're a bunch of crazy lunatics. Like some of us are like weird ass characters and we love them. Like for example, Jet. Like Jet, we pay him out all the time, but he loves it. Like he goes, yeah, this is great. And like Jet, like one of those people that sometimes like we all get down, and when Jet gets down, we like, oh, come on, Jet, you can do this. And we would focus him on getting an army done. Like right now, we're pushing him to do an ogre army, and he's getting it done. And that's the kind of group that we've kind of made. And it's cool because some people come up to us and be like, how can I join Clanfield? We're hoping to be really supportive. And we're like, oh, just hang out with us.
Oh,
and
Yeah.
like, and we've had that. We've had, for example, we've had 2 members join us because they hung out with us. And we had another one.
This isn't the Clanfield recruitment show, Liam.
yeah.
Come on.
No, but it's one of those things where we've made this gaming group a support group. So if one of us are down, we raise them up.
I've noticed that, and I guess the reason why I wanted to share that story was because it didn't start as like, guys, we're going to start a gaming club. We found a venue. We want to be a competitive group. You guys just found a common connection with you all, which was you just a couple of dudes who were hanging out at one particular store. You all enjoyed playing a certain game, and through continual interactions, you built relationships that were greater than just the tabletop game that you were playing. And you built friendships, and this is probably not an uncommon story, but it just shows you how simple seeds that are playing at a store can really blossom into something beautiful if you don't have this community, or you are looking for something more from your community. You don't feel like you've got the social support. You don't have that community that you guys have talked about. This is how it all started, and you're now reaping the rewards by simply attending events and getting conversations started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's honestly an amazing support group. Like I remember when I'm having issues at work and stuff, I know that I can just go straight to this Clanfield chat and be like, hey guys, having a crappy day, what's going on? And then like they'll be like, okay, cool, we're going to the store and let's go to the pub and eat and do some painting. So yeah, it's I'm very lucky to have that group, and I know that. So yeah,
That's really cool.
But it does help.
I like that you basically are like, you don't even realize it, but you basically have wrestling valets at your table. They're not supposed to interfere with the match, but of course one of them grabs the chair and like hits them when the ref's not looking.
Yeah, kind of similar.
It's similar, but it's like getting them beer instead. Like but you're still the mental game. You're in their head.
Yeah,
we're
a pretty supportive group, and I love it. But yeah, it's been good.
And I'm official friend, so I'm a part of the friend group.
Yeah.
I want to go.
We support you, and also we support you since you're a friend, since you affiliate with us.
Well, you guys stayed up at 1 o'clock in the morning to watch me play on Warhammer television when I was on Blood and Glory, which was game 1. It was like from 11 till 1 o'clock in the morning, and I got constant messages from you guys. And this is back 2.5 years ago when we had just played a couple of tournaments. So absolutely, the community support is incredible, whether you are a content creator or not, whether you're just the average Joe. You have so many cool people around you. I just want to highlight that. I want to get into some listener questions, if you guys don't mind. Mark Wolf has asked and mentioned, depression, anxiety, work, life can stop you from just sitting down and painting and building. How do you guys deal with that when you just can't hobby?
Like when you can't hobby, do you mean like emotionally you just don't feel like it, or like you just like, I'm on a business trip, I can't hobby right now, I need my fix to get out of my mental headspace?
I guess he's saying that maybe life is happening to him or to
Okay, yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is just a question, not
Yeah,
maybe not
yeah,
necessarily to the
yeah.
person,
So
but when life's happening to you and you want a hobby but you just can't, how do you get out of that vicious cycle?
I would say focus on other aspects of the hobby. I think is the, like, so, you get like, I'm facing layoff here. I won't be able to commit to a different list for Wapaka because I just won't have the disposable income. If I'm like, man, turns out Nagash in Petrifex Elite just was not the way to go. After I did all my test games, I thought it was going to be great, not top tier, top table, but I'm known for Nagash, rather Nagash specifically. So I'm going to bring Nagash. Like, oh man, oh no, I can't change my list. I can't buy models and stuff like that. So like, I can't hobby, right? I'm going to get locked into that going forward. I say focus on other aspects of it. If you can't, like, life's got you down. One, maybe focus on life for a little bit. Like, you might actually have to go, hey man, work is not good, or I need to find a job, or I'm not happy with my current job, or I have a bunch of depression and anxiety issues going on right now. Like, yeah, hobby usually is my go-to that helps me feel better. But man, I've painted 50 Stormcast Eternals, and I just don't feel any better right now. And not just because I painted Stormcast Eternals. Like, it's when you get at some point, you got to change something, right? If your standard, your go-to, if isn't changing, if you're not able to deal, you got to change something. Like I said, on a micro scale, on a hobby level, like, okay, you just can't hobby right now for these basic levels, but you can send out a tweet talking about the hobby. You can watch a hobby video, maybe, like, just focus the interest. If you can't like, get that, like, that vicarious hit of the hobby. If that's the sort of basic level we're talking about, you can't hobby. If it's bigger than that, write a story about your army, come up with a sweet name for your general. Like, focus on a different aspect of the hobby is, like, the first thing I would say. If that's not working, if it's bigger than that, then you need to look at your life. And because, face it, life and family probably come first, and there are various components of life and family that you must fulfill to maintain that you have life and family. You got to have food, drink, you got to have your basic needs met. And then from there, Warhammer is a close second. Don't get me wrong. Like, but, like, you got to make sure that first tier is sorted out. Like, you got to, and that might just be it. Recognizing, using some of these techniques we've talked about, like recognizing that something's not, that there's an incongruency in your life that's stopping you from hobbying. Fix that stuff. Go back to the hobby. And sometimes that means ask for help if you don't know how to readily fix your stuff, right?
Yeah, like, when it comes to, like, life getting in the way and you want to get to your escape, the great thing, and it's funny because you're listening to a podcast or watching a video, listening and podcasts and stuff is also, like, pretty much like us content creators, we kind of make it so people can have something to do while they're, like, focusing on life or, like, doing things.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Like, I know when I got really busy with work, like, there was times I didn't hold a paint. Like, I think earlier this year, there was a time between April to June or July, I didn't touch a brush or even, like, built a model. Like, life got in the way. I didn't even play games much. But what I did was, to get my fix and get my escape, I listened to podcasts. I just got to watch Honest Wargamer, got to watch games, battle reports. I just did stuff that I could do at work, or, like, when I'm, like, around and about driving for life. Like, that was my way of escaping, to cope with being like, okay, cool. Like, I still love this hobby. I can still escape by doing this. So, yeah.
In other words, listen to Rantcast.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, I had to do it.
But you raise interesting points. I have one particular person I have in mind, and I've had a few people who've shared this story with me, is that the likes of podcasts and shows like this has helped them feel connected in the community when they are in small towns or they don't have a strong community around them. And I think you've raised a really interesting point that the hobby isn't just painting and playing. The hobby is story. It's reading a Black Library book. It's listening to a podcast. It's going onto Google Images and downloading a bunch of pictures that could be inspiration for your next project when that time or that money is unlocked. The hobby is so much more than just painting and playing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you can always like hit me up with some dank memes on Twitter too, like that, you know, and then I'll just like talk shit with you. If you can't hobby, I'll talk shit about the hobby.
Liam, I know you're a big one on this when it comes to the environment, and some people are just not in an environment where it's good for their hobby. It's positive, maybe. They don't live in a house. They have the space to hobby, or maybe there's too many distractions. Do you have any examples or any ideas on how someone could find a space or an environment that they can relax and enjoy themselves with their hobby?
Well, so there's cool places that you can do. And one awesome tool that I recommend when it comes to hobby is, if you can do it, noise canceling headphones to listen to music or podcasts. So you can just like lock yourself out. I'm not even kidding. The headphones that I'm wearing now have helped me out heaps because I don't get distracted. Your gaming store is always a nice, safe place to hobby, and it's going to be like-minded people there that you can just casually talk to and hobby, because the social part is part of the hobby as well. So you got that. That's one thing. If you don't have that, see, there's a local gaming club. Like we have things like Exiles where people are allowed to come in and paint and hang out and just do that. And then like usually some of those gaming clubs have like bars and snacks, so you can just eat and snack on while you do it. And again, you can like not even have your headphones, but you can listen to other people's cool D&D stories and be like, that's really cool, inspirational. Or you can just listen to your headphones again. But you like surround yourself with, again, like-minded people. You do not need a massive space. Like I'm currently on my desk is like, I'm pretty sure I only got like that much room to actually paint. Like it's like about like, yay. Like it's not that big. I got like, you can go to like your office works or whatever and get like small storage things to minimize your space and like be able to pack it down. But yeah, like the environment is super key. Make sure it's just like clean, because when your hobby is messy, you're not like hobby space is messy, you're not motivated to do it, and then you're going to be in that slump. So like I'm not the cleanest person, but I do know that I have to clean this space a little bit so I feel like I can do it and like get into my escape. But yeah, the environment's huge, and the big part about it is like surrounding yourself with things that make you happy. So like as we talked about before, like music is an escape for us as well. Like we listen to certain songs. As I said before, I watch anime, so like anime is a huge escape for me. Like when I watch it, I feel good, I feel happy, I'm laughing, I'm enjoying it. And so I literally have 2 screens right now, since like due to my job I need 2 screens. So I'm very lucky that I can do this. But I can literally just have 1 screen just to watch my anime and then paint and get to like and do that. So yeah, like that's like when it comes to the environment, just take the time to set it up and respect your space, like honestly, and get other people to respect it if it's at home. Like it doesn't need to be huge. Like I know on Twitter, we see people with these amazing big spaces with like paint racks and everything. You do not need that. Like I got like the little file storage thing where my paint's not even really properly organized, but I can see by colors like that I got them. Like that's all I need. So yeah, like it's a huge thing. Like, and the same thing with my work as well. Like I need a good environmental space for my own work. And again, I just have my headphones on and doing that. I sound like a massive antisocial person, but the headphones are honestly super helpful.
Sometimes you need to focus, and sometimes you need the space to be creative. And I know some people in the hobby who do have a lot of social pressures that are happening. Maybe they've got kids, or they've got a very noisy environment. They will get up early to do half an hour painting a day, or they'll stay up late and put the kids to bed, and that 1 hour or half an hour is their hobby time. So
yeah. And even hobbying for like half an hour can help. Like you don't need to do like a full 2 hours or whatever. Like putting on a bit of color and stuff is just good. Like if you can just do like, I know like the other night, I really want to get heaps of stuff done on my Death Riders. And I just went like, no, I'm just going to get down like Lead Belcher. Like just at least if I can get this down, I'll be happy. and it took me like an hour or so, and that's enough for me. I was like, cool, done. I can go. Go.
No. Go ahead. Finish your point.
I literally forgot what I was going to say, so it's all good.
Oh, damn. I'm sorry, man. No, I just what Coach said there about like kind of like a schedule. Actually, like it can really help with like, you know, creating that physical hobby space. Like, so okay, you don't have like I'm fortunate to have a office here right off the side of my master bedroom, and I keep it adequately nerdy so that like Molly never wants to come in here because she is not a nerd. But like scheduling yourself some time can help you create a physical space too, because you go, this is hobby time after the kids go to bed. I get up early or on my lunch break, or whatever your situation is going, I'm just going to like create a space now because, you know, I live in a 1-bedroom single apartment with 3 kids, whatever your situation is. I'm going to create a space now at the table. Right now, my space is here, but you've created a sort of metaphysical space by blocking off that time. And if you have relationships and kids, getting people to respect that time. I hate schedules, but it has really helped me personally to have that, like, because Molly, again, she's not a nerd, but I'm like, okay, I got to do Rantcast now. Like, and it's on our, like, I've had to partition that time off, and that's really helped. And then one last thing, just Carter here in chat said, with depression, I sometimes feel like others have it worse than me. So why should I get to feel this way? I don't like, I really think it's super important. People have had it worse than me. I honestly, I turned out pretty fucking awesome, man, because of what I went through. But like everyone experiences, like, so we have the basic human emotions because they are just brain chemicals, right? You know, just like that reflex test when the doctor hits you on the knee with the little rubber hammer, like getting a stimulus to your brain that says you get to feel sad now. You feel it the same way I do. You know, like, you know, mine might persist longer, or hell, yours should persist as long too. And it doesn't, you don't need to have had the bipolar mom or the bad high school experience or whatever it is. One of the things that is essential to like sort of getting over these mental health stigmas is recognizing that everyone's allowed to feel crummy no matter the reason, that everyone's little like crummy emotions in the moment are just as valid as anybody else's. I had kind of the reverse. I used to feel like I shouldn't feel bad in front of people because like my friend feels bad about something that is minor, you know, they didn't get the promotion at work and they're spiraling into as deep a depression as me when my mom died. And like, now I can't talk about my mom dying in front of them because no, like what's important is to recognize the common emotions. I think the other stuff is just sort of, I don't want to call it noise, but flavor or background. Like it's the emotion, I think, that's important, and recognizing that we all feel these same emotions in very similar ways because we're humans after all. That like you got to validate yourself, you know, and just like I have people in my life, in my circle that go, oh, he's just being Andrew and he wants a pity party. Those aren't the people I gravitate towards when I'm in a mood and I need help, you know. You need to find yourself some friends that validate your sadness, whatever the reason, even if you don't think you have these big dramatic issues in your past. Like one of the I remember when I had my goth phase, so I'm a little bit older than the emo phase, so I had a true goth phase. Sorry. Like what happened was like, I'm like, oh, this new guard of kids, they're not really depressed. They're just faking it to, you know, because it's trendy now. That was a shitty thing for me to think when I was younger. Like that was just a terrible outlook on my part. You know, I'm happy that I got out of that mindset. But again, like I wouldn't have been a good friend to have at that time. I was a shitty person in that respect. So like it's important to like have good people around you that are going to validate you, because, and I'm again, like you don't need a fucking backstory like a comic book villain to feel valid when you feel bad. And you should never let somebody else not let you feel the way that you just feel, you know. So I just had to break the user questions there because I think that's a really it's really important to point that out.
Yeah.
This is coming from Rocco or John Rocco. He said, what do you do when something such as playing the game turns from being a stress reliever to a stressor? Now, this often happens at events and tournaments. Maybe you just play locally with your friends, and then you go to such a large event with 100 or more players, and you've gone from like a big fish to in a small pond to a small fish in a big pond, and you have self-doubts, or that the pressure of performance really can get to you. So I guess what would you guys say? And I might throw this one to Liam first. Just I know he attends a lot of tournaments. What are your thoughts, Liam, when it comes to the stress reliever become the stressor?
So this is gonna sound arrogant as all hell, but and this is really weird. So like how I get really stressed in games, and like for example, CanCon this year we had a bit of an issue where there was a call that was made and I wasn't happy with it, and I kind of had a rant, but I had to go outside and get some fresh air. And like literally all you have to do when it comes to those kind of situations, like at an event and stuff, you need to know when you're crossing a line, when you know that you got to remind yourself this is just a game. So like I literally, when I had the situation, I was like, fuck, this is just a game. So I had to like walk myself out, go outside, have some fresh air, and then go back, go up to my opponent, shake his hand, saying like, again, thanks for the game, super sorry, and that's it. And like I've had it happen to me a couple of times, so I get really stressed, and it's not good. And like since I'm really competitive, it hurts a lot. Like it kills. And then it doesn't also help when you are known in the community as being a top player. So you kind of have that like persona to fill, if that makes sense. Like everyone expects it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like when we do those list review shows, like I enjoy it, but the part that I get really, when I struggle against is when people go, oh, he's definitely going to be in the top 10. Oh, he's definitely going to be this. And then you go, crap. Like I have to like show them that I can do that. Like they have so much high hopes. Like with me with ETC, everyone's like, oh yeah, Liam's going to do really well. And then that it gets put pressure on me, but like I need to remind myself that like it's a game and I'm going to do my best. And like you got to like it's kind of this thing where you have to separate yourself and kind of remind yourself that it's a game and that's it. And then take a deep breath.
So that's probably where I wanted to go with that question, because certainly in the moment, and I think Christine has asked a really good question around this as well, that in the moment, absolutely, it's about reminding yourself that it's just a game. You're there to have fun. You want to do your best with what you can do. But then there's that other side of in preparation and going to the event, right? And you're about to go to the ETC. We just highlighted that every team is going to send their 6 best players across the world. They're spending thousands of dollars to attend an event, and they're going to practice as all hell. These people are going to be good. You're going to have play testers. You're going to have people who win tournaments of 200 or 100 or more size events. They are great. How do you stop that self-doubt and that pressure from getting to you? And as you've just mentioned, that when people rate you as a top 10 player, automatically you have a target. Automatically, you have self-doubt potentially of, am I as good as X? Or how am I going to handle this pressure when everyone is, I guess, coming for you on the tabletop?
Yeah, it's like you literally have to separate yourself. Like it was like CanCon was a clear example where I literally had to like leave, take a deep breath, and like literally had to stay outside for like 10 minutes and then go out. And I had to say sorry to Clint and everything. I'm like, I'm so sorry, because Clint saw that I was super mad about this call. And then afterwards Clint understood that like I just needed the fresh air. And he was just like, okay, cool, that's fine. So yeah, like you really need to, it's kind of like a reality check. You need to remember, like, it's just like, you just got to wake up. You're like, yeah, it's not the end of the world for me. I can still do this. And the great thing is there's so many other, it depends where you are, but like in Australia, there's so many other events where you can go and do well and try your best there. And yeah, like that's the thing. Like if you guys have one-off events, like you got to be in that mindset and be like, oh, there's always next time. Like there's always, I can do well next time, or I can work on this. And like you learn so much. And the other thing you need to remember is you learn so much from losing. Like if you're like super stressed and you're like, I'm gonna lose this game, you're gonna learn heaps from it. And then like it's kind of like with life. Like when you lose something in life, you just learn from it.
It's not like there's $1 million on the line. It's
Yeah,
not like it's not like
it's not
I'm
going to pay your mortgage.
No, it's not like I'm a bodybuilder going for my pro card, you know, and I've trained and dieted, and you know, this one particular event is going to catapult me to be the next Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know, I think the context that you've just put around this is perfect. It is just a game. You are having fun, and yes, you want to win. We all want to win, but at what cost? And the only other thing I'll pull out before I throw it to Mr. Meph is that your performance doesn't equal how good you are as a player. Your performance does not impact your ego. Just because you go 2 and 3 at a tournament, or you don't top 10 or podium this event, doesn't mean you are any less of a player than everyone else around you. Hey, that my ego, and I think that I think the struggles with ego and put pressure on us, and it's important to separate that. And you know, even if you get a wooden spoon, doesn't mean you're crap and you should throw in the towel. You know, like
usually you get free entry to the next tournament with the wooden spoon award. Like that's a better prize than going 3 and 2.
That's pretty good.
I like that idea. I'm going to claim that. I'm going to take that for next Sydney GT. Every wooden spoon winner gets free entry to the next year. I like it.
Let them come back and apply what they learned from the losses.
And like just quickly before Meph says anything, as you said, like egos, you got to separate it. Like we all know that I had this ego, like I accept it, like I got it, and I have to separate it so many times in the games. And when you do that, you feel a lot better because then you feel like a free person. And funny thing is like when it's kind of like this like work thing that I've learned recently, where if you have a lot of pressure at work, when you relieve that and you start doing really bad when you put pressure on your stuff, like you start making mistakes and you really mess up. And when you take that pressure off, where you kind of like don't think about it and you just do you feel so much better. And I just had that recently at work, and it's kind of the same thing with the game. It's like at work, I was struggling. Like I was getting like all these meetings and stuff, and they were like, oh, you need to do this. And then like when I took the pressure off and I was like, you know what, I've had it. I'm just going to be myself and do whatever. I feel so much better and I performed better. Like I just was like, cool. And my mindset was healthier. Like I was like happier. And so there's always that as well.
So first off, this is fantastic. CanCon gave you 40K models this year for finishing last because you're bad at AOS, so try 40K. I love that kind of shade. Oh man.
40K did it. 40K did it to us as well. I think 40K gave away some.
40K gives out AOS. Yeah, they give away AOS.
That's
we just do a switch. We just say try the next system.
But in fairness, we sold out our event within 24 hours while they were struggling to hit their numbers. So like, and then they end up sending out a meme to say there was a Sigmar model with some guns, like some Photoshop guns.
Yeah,
you missed out on tickets. Come to 40K. So we know who's up. We know who's better.
That's fucking fantastic, man. No, so I think we talked a lot about like sort of the advantages of sort of when you make a model, the emotional state, like the putting yourself on the table type thing. Part of a drawback to that is that it is just a game. Yeah, we say that, but like you've invested an emotional state in the game. And so it is actually natural to get mad when certain game states occur. And I think it's important to allow yourself and kind of make it a precedent as a community, allow yourself to feel crummy, you know? And in turn, as an opponent, when you watch your opponent like roll those snake eyes on that charge in the game, they should have won. All they had to do was roll a 3, you know? Like to like give them that moment to be like, you know, like Liam, he had to go out and just give people their deep breath moments. One, like when you're on the other side, and when you're playing, you know, hey, like, yeah, it is just a game, but like just like we've been talking, what my preaching for mental state is like acknowledging that, hey, this is just part of being human. It's so I think if you destigmatize your own anger in a game, I'm not saying excuse it, I'm not saying justify it. If you're flipping tables, which is what I do when I get mad at the table, you're maybe not being healthy with it. But again, certain emotions, they exist for a reason. Like as a species, depression often drives you to change your state. Anger often motivates you to get something done. Like we have how the emotions by in and of themselves aren't bad. Even the negative ones aren't bad by themselves. It's what you do with that emotion that can be positive or negative. So anger at the table, I think, is the most often outcome. Is like you get mad, right? Something happens, I'm mad now. Because you're already in a competitive mindset, which is basic human fight or flight, gotta hunt, kill, get my food, except now it's minis, which first off is just a brilliant point in humanity. I really am a negative guy, but I have to sometimes admire good stuff in humanity. Rather than go out and like club mammoths, we fucking play toy like games. And I think that's great that we've taken our survival instincts to like fucking play board games. But like again, your emotions are valid too, even the negative ones at the table. So it's okay to feel them and destigmatize it a little bit for yourself, because then you might not have as big of a swing in your emotional state. And then the other thing is like expectation and perspective. You have to manage your expectations at events. You know, I'm a little bit of a like I was a big fish in a small pond in terms of like where I came in competitively playing. I paid for a freaking down payment on a house playing Magic the Gathering. I was never a Pro Tour qualifier, like, but I won enough packs to sell enough packs and placed high enough consistently to make real and actual cash money playing that. I came in with an ego. I've won cash money playing fighter tournaments. Like, so I had an ego, and then I got old, and you age out of fighting at like age 25. But like, so I had like a huge fucking ego, and I had to wake up when I came to Age of Sigmar. Like I had to check that shit. And so like, I think it's important to manage your perspective and expectations, because there isn't $1,000 prize on the line with Age of Sigmar. No matter how great you think you are, you're playing a lot of people who are great. That's what makes this community awesome, is there is such a high caliber of person that you're going to interact with on the table. It's okay to lose to great people, you know? Like, it's okay. Again, you're not putting a down payment on your house with Age of Sigmar play. Like, you're not doing any of that other stuff. And like, I love the competition as much as anyone. Rankings make me feel a little, I don't like the system for rankings, so I kind of hate those. Like, you can just grind one dayers at your local shop that happens to use Best Coast pairing fucking ranking, and like, I'm one of the best in the world. Like, go fuck yourself. Like, you're not. You're sorry. So rankings, whatever. But I do love the competitive element. That's one of my big draws to this game. But I love the competitive element in that 3-dimensional personalities, Clash of Titans, 2 humans playing the game, rather than just sprites on a screen like in Street Fighter, or a deck of cards where I don't even look at you, I look down at the deck. Like, yeah, like I think that's important. Again, perspective and expectation. You got to manage your expectations, and that takes time.
Just as a transition to Christine's question, I do want to call out what the way I see competitive play, and people may agree or disagree with this, is that I compete with myself.
Yes.
When I'm at the gaming table, I'm playing against myself. I'm beating myself, or I'm winning against myself. When I look at the ranking system, I'm competing against myself, and nothing motivates me more than myself. So when I lose a game, and I was having this Twitter conversation with Christine earlier, sometimes I go a little bit introverted. I'm a very extroverted person, and people who know me well know that I'm when I'm not having a good day, I go introverted. And the reason I do that is not because I'm shutting down because I don't want to talk to people, but rather I'm reflecting internally and thinking about strategies, and I'm replaying the scenario, and I'm thinking about what can I do differently to improve the next time I'm in this position. And the caveat to all of this is that when someone looks at me, they might think that I'm not having a good game, and they maybe have thought, oh, I've impacted Anthony's experience, or he didn't have fun. And it's not quite true. It's just the way that I strategically I like to look at the world and start to plan. So thinking about the way that I bring myself to the table, I need to be true to myself, but to make sure that I'm not negatively impacting my opponent, whether I'm in a bad situation or whether I have a bad outcome on the table. And this leads perfectly into Christine's point where she says, when she's in a mentally bad way, she's more argumentative or is very heated, and that potentially turns people away from wanting to have those games. And it's when she's in those times, like how do you approach this with your opponent? Like if you're noticing that they're having a bad time, or if you're noticing that someone's just not right, they're not normally like this. Is there any advice or any things that you would offer to your opponent?
I have
a cigarette break.
What's that?
Have a cigarette break?
Yeah, buy him a beer. No, I actually one of my friends, Chris Grafton, I played him at my first ever really big tournament. I think it was we were both 3-0 third round, right? Like, so you're starting to, my first tournament, my competitive mindset, like I'm already starting to get sort of stressed, like the stressors are happening. And mitigating a lot of that stress, by the way, happens the more reps you get and the more conscious effort you put into it. The more prepared you are with your army, the more prepared you're going to be on the table for like the curveball moments of feeling bad and anything that can happen. But like what ended up happening is Chris, I actually snapped at him at the table, and I'm like a guy who tends to be pretty sporting and pretty nice. But in that moment, it was just like, we were not playing the same game, if that makes sense. Like we weren't, and I didn't know this guy. I didn't know if he's trying to angle shoot me. He thinks I'm trying to angle shoot him because like I'm playing Legions of Nagash with 80 freaking skeletons on the table, and I'm fanning them out, and I'm kind of shaking a lot and moving slow because my first big tournament experience. And I like at one point, like I'm doing math and stuff. And he's like, well, if you just do this, and I'm like, dude, I'm doing it. Like, and just I snapped. Right. And then like we played the quietest game of Age of Sigmar I've ever played, like to finish out the round. I walked up after that game as soon as I cooled off, and I said, I am really sorry. Like just deeply sorry. And like, because I had I had this outburst, this thing. I'm like, and not that it wasn't me. I possess anger and I possess a temper and all those things, but I try to mitigate that stuff at the table. And when that stuff comes out, you just got to own it. And I walked up to him. Luckily, I got to play him at the very next tournament I went to, in like round 2 or something like that. And we had a fucking amazing game. It was one of the best. He's one of my good friends now. Like it's so I got to redeem myself. And I think if you have the opportunity, you play someone in a tournament, if you have the opportunity to play them at the next tournament or outside the tournament, I think that goes a long way in developing a relationship when there's nothing on the line and it's just, and, some personalities just clash, that's natural. You're not playing the game the same way as somebody else. I think part of it is just one, deal with yourself because that's what you can affect. Own your mistakes and try to grow. So.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Look, there's been plenty of times where, not plenty of times, but I remember one situation where I played against Ken Van Schip, with these deep kin eels, and it was at a tournament, and I had a massive headache. It was round 2. I was not feeling good, but I was persisting because I was at a tournament, and like I had a bad game. Really bad game. I was really snappy at him. I didn't tell him I had a headache, but it was just mentally, it was driving poor behavior. And I messaged him straight away on Facebook, and I found him. We weren't friends at the time, and I'm like, dude, I'm really sorry. Like I completely owning up on it, and we've had amazing games ever since. So I think what you've just said is beautiful. Own it, apologize, and find ways to not put yourself in that same position again. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you will build a reputation. last listener question before we kind of wrap this up. I'm conscious of time. When you're struggling, this has come from Seth Cook, the Goon King himself. When you're struggling, do you find it's better to hobby alone? Do you find it's better to hobby with mates, or to even go out and play games? You know, for him personally, you know, he hasn't really, he wouldn't have made it through some of these tougher times if it wasn't for the friends that he's made through the hobbies. And he thinks that hobbying alone isn't always the answer. So I guess asking you guys, you know, what's better? If you're not feeling it, you're struggling, you're having a tough time, should you just go out and hobby by yourself with mates, or force yourself to play a game?
I find, I mean, it really, I tend to hobby with people if I'm struggling, because I find I need the extra support, because I'll turn against myself if I'm alone, if that makes sense. So even if it can be something as simple as like joining Discord with some people. I know some people will do like hobby hangouts on Discord and Skype and things like that. And like just something like that, you know, is good. Obviously going to your LGS, if you got a great LGS, you know, I'll turn on a stream and do hobby hangouts myself. Like I find, or I paint the thing by myself. I'm like, fuck this model, I want to throw it against a wall. And then I post it up on Twitter and a bunch of people are like, oh yeah, you did great, man. Like, cool. You know, that I'm sure that like there's a place for like hobbying by yourself, but when I'm struggling, I find I need the reinforcement.
Liam?
It depends. Like at the moment, the past like 6 or so months, I've been enjoying hobby by myself just because with my job, I'm very much like in with people. So like I'm very much need that time where I need to be alone. Like that's one thing. Like my whole job is literally people. So you just need to be alone. But if I have been like, if I don't like, let's just say it's like the holidays or whatever, and like I've been hobbying by myself, then I go out and hang out with like-minded hobbyists and stuff. But like I think when I'm like really down, like really down, a game always helps because it's social interaction. You can have a beer on the side. You don't have the you've got to concentrate in the game, but you can have a laugh. Like you can do some stupid stuff in the game, but like, oh, charge this silly unit, see how it goes, kind of thing.
Go for the mage bonk.
Yeah, I was like, oh, like for example, like I would like for like last night, when I was playing, for example, you just do stupid stuff like oh, I'm just gonna use Curse of Years, and everyone's like, why? That's so sweet. I'm like, because it's hilarious, and we're gonna do it. So you just do silly things like that with your models and stuff. Yeah, like it's stuff like that where I'm just like, I prefer hobbying by myself because, as I mentioned before the show, I'm an introvert extrovert. I like being alone. It's just a thing that I like doing. Yeah, like it's good.
Yeah, and I would suggest, and I would suggest if you're going to play a game, let your opponent know what type of game you want to play. If you want to have a funsy game, if you want to be silly, you want to try, I don't know, like a match that isn't from the General's Handbook. You know, sometimes you just want to have and take that pressure off. You're like, look, man, I'm not having a good time at the moment. Can we just have a game? Can we just have funsies? You know, I just want to roll some squigs for some laughs. Because I imagine you organize that game and then you get your dick punched in by someone who's expecting a competitive play, and you know you're being a bit weird. But actually, what I'm looking for is more that social interaction, the laughs, and like you know, letting people know what to expect is always good too.
You can do that at every level of interaction in this game, and that ties in with like some of the earlier questions of mental health, like just being honest, man. Like that's pretty much all it is. I'm pretty like, even at a tournament play, like my expectations in the game will shift based on what I think my opponent wants. And you know, you ask, hey man, what, you know, see them, you don't always have to be like, what kind of game do you want in a tournament? You can tell when they walk up with certain lists, certain models, if they're excited. Oh man, I always run this Chaos Gargant. Freaking love him. And you're just like, all right, man, this is the kind of game we're about to have. Like, loves the Chaos Gargant. So now I'm going to try to kill the thing they love because I'm a douchebag and I want to like game the things. But then we always have these really fun situations where they're protecting the Chaos Garg and I'm trying to kill it. But yeah, be honest. Just be honest up and down, just all the way up and down the chain.
Love it. So I'm going to ask 3 final questions, maybe more rapid fire questions to kind of bring us home. The first one I'm going to ask is, what would you say to any listener that is going through their own challenges right now?
I think Liam should field this first. I've talked a lot.
Oh, okay. I was like, hoping you answer. I was like, what's your answer? Sorry, can you repeat the question again, Magro? Because I was expecting him to answer this one.
What would you say to a listener who's currently going through challenges right now, whether it's because of the just generally something's been triggered, or maybe the festive season is not so festive right now?
Reach out to your closest friends who you trust. Like, just closest friends to talk about it. That's it, really. And then seek help. And then last thing to add into that one, have a nap. Like, you feel so good after a goddamn nap. Like, if every time I have a rough day at work, I just go to sleep and then wake up and feel refreshed.
I'm not a nap kind of guy, but certainly a shower is does that for me too. Like, get out a nice piping shower, just chill under the water.
Yeah, like that is actually a really good call as well. Like, just something that can refresh you. Like, even if it's like changing your clothes, like just changing into a fresh pair of clothes. It's just something where it's just like, let's refresh, let's do that. So that's like why naps, like anything like that. And like one thing to mention quickly as well, don't go towards drugs or anything like that. Like, don't think like, I know like when you really feel bad, you start thinking like, oh, alcohol will help kind of thing. That's like super, 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 super short term. So don't go, oh, I need a beer or anything like that. You just seek vocal help, not substance help is the key thing.
Well, like alcohol locks you in the emotion you're in, by the way. Like it's just you're locked in whatever you're in.
Yeah.
So that's one of the awesome things about it as a social lubricant, because if you're high energy in the moment, it can lock you in that high energy. Until it doesn't. But I guess mine would be just literally all of the above. Reach out to a good friend and find the quiet moments is one of the things. Even at work, I get to drive around in a work truck all day. If I'm stressing out and I'm having a real challenging day, or my own mental health issues that are persistent throughout my life begin to creep into my work day, that's where I grab the Zen burrito. That's where I drive the lakefront. Because we have a lakefront. I'll drive the lakefront to get to my next ticket instead of going straight to it. So find quiet moments. A single cup of coffee does wonders for me in every situation, which is a chemical. But just a chill cup of coffee, and just letting myself have that quiet moment where I turn my phone off. I don't go on the internet. I just drink the cup of coffee, and all I do is worry about that cup of coffee in that moment.
And Tristan Tristan Gray, our friend Tim King Tristan, has called out, a short run. We talked about the physiology, and getting active is definitely one that works really well. Christine has definitely said, big fan of the nap. Nap
life.
Yeah, everyone loves the nap. Good nap. I can't sleep during the day, but the show's not about me. The shower. The shower, though, is key. Love a good hot shower. Finally, what can I do to help a family member, a friend, or someone who I care about who may be going through this challenge? So I want to, what's your advice to me, the listener, the observant person who's noticed a trigger or something's just not right?
The first thing is listen. Honestly, just listen to them. You can get a run. Listening to them is going to help them run their self-diagnostic. They can't necessarily identify the emotions, what's triggering it, until they talk it out themselves in so many situations. Just listening, giving them a sounding board can do wonders. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to, just listening sincerely, just, hey, asking them follow-up questions is part of being an active listener. So it's important to ask questions when you're listening to somebody who's going through this stuff. If you're just like, oh man, what's going on? And then end of conversation, you haven't listened. So ask those questions. You don't need to get personal with it. Just be like, oh, well, why do you feel that way? oh, what happened, man? Like, just listen and be active in your listening. And then from there, if you do think it's really bad, urge them to seek some help, because you're probably not equipped to do beyond basic advice and listening. I mean, coach, I wasn't, the worst I've ever been, but there were certainly incongruencies in my life. And he listened, he asked questions, and then he came up with his lovely lily pad metaphor, or whatever the fuck it was. And I really did change, but I had to work on me in that situation. I needed that somebody just listening to me and helping me reorganize my thoughts. And it worked wonders for me. Had it progressed further in my sort of downward spiral, I would have needed to seek help. And I would have probably needed someone to be pretty stern with telling me to seek help, because I'm such a stubborn asshole. I don't want to ask anybody for anything.
And I will say, as somebody, it is really tough to listen and not go into solution mode. The amount of times that, I think that I know the solution and I can give this, do this, and your problem's solved. I don't believe that would help, but the natural instincts that the listener has is that they want to help. They want to get this person out of the pain that they're in. And unfortunately, you don't have all the solutions. So I think listening, being intentively listening, and also calling out, seeing professional help is critical. So know your limits and not what you can do.
Yeah.
Dramatic intervention, probably not the way to go, by the way. That's for you. That's not for them. That crap's bullshit. The last time someone tried to pull that on me, I was having some really dark thoughts. It wasn't like pretty self-destructive in terms of like just the anger and getting into fights and stuff like that. And one of my friends thought the best thing to do was to like have this dramatic intervention for like my anger issues and stuff. And I'm like, what did that do? Pissed me off even more. Like that. Listen, I think is the first step, and help urge people.
Yeah. I was call out Andrew Yells really quickly, and then I'd love to hear Liam kind of close us off, as he had mentioned that when his roommate's mother had died, and she had depression for a long time, we had found it was best to just do stuff for her. So don't ask if someone needs something. Just make them dinner and do kind stuff. I think that's a lovely way of doing it in a non-direct way. If you see someone struggling, just do something nice for them.
Yeah. To answer the fire question, listen, as we said, but then also guide them in a direction of where to go. Just be like, oh, go see a GP or doctor, and like go see a professional. And you just got to guide them. Like, listening is great, but never go into solution mode, because then they will try and start putting the blame on you. And then like, you just don't need that. Like, you're doing them a favor by listening. You just never should ever give advice, because we're not qualified. If that makes sense. Like, don't do something that you're not qualified for. Like, I give advice in like saying like have a snack or something, but I'm not going to give them like life advice being like, well, like do this. It's kind of just like distractions in a way, or things to help them cope with like snacks or whatever. Like, this is weird thing, right? And this is the weirdest tip for anyone, and you can easily look up how to make this online. Like, one of the littlest tricks I really enjoy is like chocolate granola, right? Because chocolate makes you feel good, right? And granola is like a really nice snack kind of thing. So adding them together, you can literally just have this like a little bit around you, and every time when you like feel low or you just need something to like give you a pick me up, chocolate granola is like sweet. Wouldn't survive on it. Highly recommend it. Like, highly not recommend like surviving on it. But you feel it's like this like little kick me up. It's kind of similar to like Mephisto's like coffee. Like, it's just like a little pick me up kind of thing, and it helps. So yeah, it's just stuff like that when you tell people advice, being like, "Oh, try this." Kind of thing, but you don't tell them like, oh, you should really do this with your life. It's kind of like, don't go near that.
Yeah,
we all have triggers, right? Like, I love peanut M&Ms. I love Dr. Pepper. I love, my top 5 bands are like, Rammstein and, The Offspring and, Limp Bizkit. So I chuck one of those tunes on because I know not having a good day, go buy a packet of M&Ms and put on some mad tunes that I really enjoy, and you'll notice that may not be like a silver bullet, but certainly you will feel better. Just naturally, you'll feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This has been amazing, guys, and I've stressed it twice, 3 times. I'm going to stress it again. If you need help, if you are not okay, you know, your friends and family and your communities are definitely a good source of support, but definitely reach out to the professionals. There are free helplines. There are people that you can chat to over the phone, via text, by live messengers. There is a range of different communities, whether you're in the lifelines of the world. The UK has a great company. Christine pointed out, Mind, I think they're called. You've got the kids helplines, you've got the crisis centers. There's a lot of really helpful people out there. Please get professional help as much as reaching out to their friends, family, loved ones. Mr. Meph, if people want to find you, and they're going to potentially, if you're watching this live, know that this man's going to be streaming in about 20 minutes time with Mr. Strengthhammer himself, one of my dearest, and I love that man. Britney Spears is definitely superior than KT. That's a fact. Adepticon, I beat him with my Britney Spears shirt and his Taylor Swift shirt with the Battle of the Pop Stars. It's legit. Britney won. But Mr.
Cara
Meph,
Delevingne's better.
that wasn't a part of the battle. The battle was Britney versus.
I'm just saying. Cara Delevingne's better.
All right, well, you like that whatever that person is.
I gotta go.
And we'll battle. But more importantly, Mr. Meph, they want to talk to you. They want to find out more about you. They want to listen to your amazing content. Where can they find you?
Mr. Meph, at MR_MEPH. Like, I kept it short instead of spelling out Mephisto, so you can use even more characters to rant at me on Twitter. And then Twitch and YouTube. YouTube, just look for the links. It's gibberish. You could probably look up AOS Rantcast and find me that way. Otherwise, my Twitch is Mr_Mephisto. I do usually a weekly Rantcast. Often falls on a Thursday around 7 o'clock. I'll be running to I'll be doing that right after this. But then I also do hobby hangouts, and I play some video games too. So I'm usually around the internets. You can find me thereabouts.
Love it. And Liam,
Twitter at Shadowhammer_. You guys can always message me and just chat about crap. It's always good. I've been enjoying it recently, just having heaps of people talk to me about just random stuff, if it's like personal, even like hobby. And then the Sydney page, I'm a Age of Sigmar Sydney Australia page. And then just here really getting to talk to you every 2 weeks.
I just want to call out to wrap this up, because I can't believe I forgot about talking about it. But more importantly, I've been the guest here. You guys have been the experts. SSXE mentioned about vets, and that reminded me about animal companionship. And nothing is more rewarding, nothing can help ground you than the unconditional love that is your pets. So nothing makes me feel better than hanging out with my dog. No, I know Liam's a cat man, but that's also a great, place of inspiration and support. So do hang out with your loved ones.
I gotta say though, animals know when you're done.
Yeah,
they just know. Like they just know. So like they're pretty cool. I know I had like one cat that, I kid you not, every time I had a crappy day, just did not leave my side. It was just like, if I was in bed, I was like, I just want to sit down and watch anime. This cat would just like turn up. Her name was Phoebe. Turned up, sat with me, and just said like, I'm not leaving you till you're freaking bed. I'm like, okay. So yeah, it's a really good shout.
All right. I'm going to end the stream by saying animals are the best. Go hang out with your cat. Go hang out with your dog. Go find a rescue animal. They are the best. Guys, thank you very much for both being so honest and transparent and sharing so much about yourselves. I hope these simple strategies can help people who may be not feeling okay. And if you aren't feeling okay, my Twitter DMs are open, much like I imagine my 2 fine guests would be here to help. If you are watching this live, jump onto Twitch, go follow Mr. Meph. He's about to go live in about 15 to 20 minutes time. Otherwise, go catch it on replay if you are watching this later. Thank you, everyone, and we'll catch you next fortnight.
Good night.
Peace.